And that is what a Victory Monday should look like on a Sunday. Total domination, listening to what the Sports Bash said on Friday and implementing that in your game plan on Monday. Good job, Nick Sirianni. I feel like he had to have been locked in on our Friday conversation, right? It's the only way to explain what we saw yesterday. A heavy dose of Boston Scott, which I said on Friday. Every time they've gone to Boston Scott and called on him, he has been there for them. Nick Sirianni showed that it can be done. So what does it mean moving forward? We dive into that. And, oh, by the way, John Gannon, I didn't forget about you. You actually looked like you had a clue on Sunday. So what happened in the previous weeks? Well, a lot is here to unpack, and I'm doing it with you. I'm Mike Gill. Josh Henning producing today's show. You out there. Victory Monday. It always feels better with a victory. I don't care how bad everybody thinks the Eagles are. When they win, it just has a different little giddy up, right? You just have a little extra pep in your step, and there's so much to unpack here. And I know that I put a tweet out there yesterday, and I don't understand why this tweet bothers so many people, but I'll get into that coming up as well here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. How's your Monday going so far? Well, you know, if you watched the game yesterday, by about halftime, you're able to kind of duck out of that thing because that game was basically not competitive. So many people felt that the Lions would win that game. I actually did pick the Lions, and I feel ridiculous about it. I mean, that team is so bad. But one of the reasons, and it's funny, on Saturday, I was over at Great Bay. I played golf in that Billy Schwein versus Pete Thompson thing, which apparently Billy tapped out of and quit because of a foot injury. But everybody there was like, Lions are the play of the week. Got to play the Lions. And I actually remember saying to one of the guys there, I said, you know what's going to happen? Everybody's picking and betting the Lions. The Eagles are going to come out and kick their butts. I mean, it just felt like everybody was so disenchanted with the Eagles last week that legitimately you talked yourself into, and I'm guilty of this as well, because like an idiot, I picked the Lions too, because everything I said on Friday, I just didn't see them doing. And I'm thinking to myself, if they just do what I said on Friday's show, I can see them winning this game. I just don't see Sirianni doing it. And Sirianni, and, you know, one of the things I said, it doesn't make any sense. I understood what I was saying didn't make sense, right? Like, legitimately explaining it, it didn't make sense. That Miles Sanders went out. Maybe he doesn't trust Miles Sanders, and he wants to lean on these two guys because in his mind, Sanders is an important part of their offense. But since Sanders wasn't there, that he had to really kind of dumb it down and lean on Boston Scott, Jordan Howard. Those guys had 24 carries combined. You had another 13 carries for Kenneth Gainwell. But really, it was the 24 carries between Scott and Howard. The two of them averaged 5 yards a carry. Scott 12 for 60, Howard 12 for 57. They both had 2 touchdowns, and they just absolutely dominated the game on the ground. 46 carries, 236 yards. It reminds you a lot of the night, I guess it was the game when Chip Kelly in the snow against the Lions just ran the ball with LaShawn McCoy and just absolutely dominated him. So we now know that this team can run the football and it can be done. There's 2 things here. One, they can do it if they elect to be that kind of team. They could run the ball. They can hammer out some yards on the ground. It'll help out Jalen Hurts, who I thought played a pretty good game yesterday. It wasn't like some eye-popping number game for Hurts. He was 9 of 14, 100 yards. I mean, he didn't do much throwing the football. But guess what? Goddard, 6 for 72. That's your offense. Run the ball, Goddard. Run the ball, Goddard. Run the ball, Goddard. There's your offense. That's who the Philadelphia Eagles are. That's who they need to be. Matt Rule, the Panthers coach, said it today. We just have to come to terms that we're a defensive team, right? The Eagles need to come to terms that they're not some big play offense. They have to come to terms that they are not, hey, we can air it out and throw it down the field and be that type of offense. They're not there. They don't have the quarterback for that. And quite frankly, they don't have the wide receivers right now for that. They have really 3 or 4, if you will, good running backs. I mean, the news on Derrick Henry today, if I'm Howie Roseman, I'm picking up the phone and I'm on the phone with Tennessee right now. And I'm asking, hey, I got 4 guys. Make me an offer for any of the 4, and I'm willing to part with pretty much all 4 of them. I know he doesn't want to give up Gainwell because he's a rookie, but the other 3 guys, I would imagine if somebody made an offer for Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard, or Boston Scott, Howie Roseman has to listen. You got 4 guys right now, all of which are pretty good. They all offer something a little different. I talked about it Friday. To me, Scott is a guy that every time you've asked that kid, hey, this guy's out, we need you to play. This guy's out, we need you to do more. He has answered the bell every single time for the most part. The 2 games against the Giants, they had 3 touchdowns in 1 game. He beat up on Dallas 1 game. He had a great game against Washington. When Boston Scott has been the guy who has been featured in this offense, I know it's probably paining people right now to say, man, on Friday's show, that Mike Gill was right on the money. But that's what happened. They said, Boston Scott, we need to feature you in our offense. And he answered the bell. He won them the game with just a great game on the ground. He got that first touchdown, and that set the tone. Howard had 2. The offense was not. You score 44 points with 100 yards passing in the NFL. I mean, that's something that at the end of on a Saturday, you'd say, all right, Navy did that. You know, Navy scored 44 points with 100 yards passing. Not an NFL team. Now, obviously, Detroit is terrible. That said, there were people out there who are now saying, well, they're terrible, are the same people who said the Eagles would lose that game. Somebody tweeted at me over the weekend and said Philadelphia has 2 of the most impressive wins in the entire NFL this year. Their win over Atlanta and their win over Detroit have to be 2 of the top 10 most impressive games all season long in the entire NFL. Nobody goes on the road and wins 44-6. Nobody goes on the road like Philadelphia did. Look, they have 3 wins this year. They're all on the road. They are 3-2 on the road. There's something to be said for that. They don't have a home win yet, oddly, but there's so much to unpack. I want to do a couple things. One, I thought Hurts managed a good game. They didn't ask him to do a lot, and he did a fine job of not doing a lot. He stayed out of the way. He made a couple throws early in the game when they had when the game was somewhat in peril still. I mean, God almighty. The defense, too, stepped up on the first drive when Detroit's going down, and they made the stop. It's what we've talked about all year. They bend but don't break, but they constantly keep breaking. Well, yesterday they didn't break. And if you watch that game, you know the 2 guys at the back of your television screen? Yeah, those guys were called safeties. You actually saw them on Sunday. And he put a lot more pressure, and we talked about this Friday. Detroit just does not have a guy that can beat you in the pass game. I mean, Hawkinson, the tight end, had 10 catches yesterday. He's essentially all they have in their offense. So the Eagles' safeties were up, the corners were pressed, and it made things a lot easier. They had 6 sacks yesterday. If you look through the offense and say, okay, Jalen Hurts played well. Running game, Boston Scott, Jordan Howard, outstanding games for both those guys. The guy that you want to look up and say had a big game, Dallas Goedert, he did. Devonta Smith, we'll get to him because there's some concerning things that consistently keep happening with Devonta Smith that I think we'd have to definitely bring up. Then on the defensive side of the ball, there's 3 things that stood out. 1, Milton Williams. If you watch Milton Williams, he was a problem all day long. He got to the quarterback. Josh Sweat dominated. So up front, 2 guys who hadn't done much all year, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, those 2 guys, and then even Barnett had a sack, although, Barnett was He had a couple of decent, I think he had a couple quarterback hits, but it was really Williams and Josh Sweat. Those two guys dominated the point of attack up front, which led to Goff having a terrible day. I mean, he was horrible. Darius Slay and Steve Nelson won their battles almost every single snap. It's hard to say every single snap, but if you look yesterday, and I'd have to look at the snap counts, I don't know that Alex Singleton was on the field nearly as much as normal. And I don't know what the reasoning was, if he was hurt, or I didn't see anything about him being hurt. But I kept watching the game, and I'm thinking, man, Singleton's not out there. And at the end of the day, it was TJ Edwards with 13 tackles, 2 for loss, a quarterback hit, and they had Davion Taylor on the field. Now, let me go get the snap counts here. I probably should have had this up at the beginning of the show, but where did I see the snap counts? DeCheco has the snap counts posted, I'm pretty sure. So I got to take a look at the snap counts here because it seemed to me that Singleton's snaps were way down. He only played 34% of the snaps yesterday. Davion Taylor played 63%, and Edwards played 66%. Now, I'm not suggesting that Davion Taylor is ready to take over and play all the time, but it seems to me that Jonathan Gannon wants the more athletic player on the field. He's got TJ Edwards, who is a more steady Eddie guy. I feel like Edwards kind of replaced Singleton, and now you're seeing Davion Taylor is essentially replacing Eric Wilson, who I'm looking at the snap counts. I don't see Eric Wilson even on here. I don't know that he had a snap yesterday. Oh, he was inactive. Okay, there you go. So Wilson has gone from starter to inactive. They've made a little switch there on that defense. So I don't know if this is going to propel them, but what we have talked about is this team has had success against mediocre teams and quarterbacks. You had one yesterday. Jared Goff would qualify as mediocre, right? He's in the mediocre range. And give John Gannon credit. When they have played teams that have been mediocre offenses, they have pretty much dominated those games, have they not? The games that they've struggled, Dallas, Tampa, Kansas City, Oakland, Vegas, those teams have veteran quarterbacks who are all pretty good. In all the other games, you take those 4 teams out of the mix, they have either A, dominated the game or been highly competitive. So what does this say? 609 403 0973 609 403 0973. Download the free mobile app, and you can message us through the free mobile app on your phone. You can text us at that number, 609 403 0973. And, of course, if you're watching the show live on the YouTube stream, holy mackerel. So there's so much in this game, just on the standpoint that the game was a total domination, how they did it, what it means, because I'm going to say something that pissed a lot of people off yesterday, and I don't know why. Yeah, thanks. I did not see the inactive list yesterday. So I didn't see that Wilson was inactive. I mean, I noticed he wasn't on the field hardly at all. I did notice that he wasn't out there. I just didn't see the actual inactive. The whole inactive thing this year has been kind of anticlimactic, except for the one game when Lane Johnson was surprisingly inactive. Their inactive list really hasn't been all that exciting. It's the same guys, but Wilson being on that list would definitely make sense now. Chris Hernandez is watching on YouTube. Chris says, Eagles finally did what we have asked, run the ball. But then again, we didn't play a top quarterback. Devonta Smith did look a little disappointing with the drops. Chris, you just hit on a lot of things that I brought up. One, I asked him on Friday to game plan around Boston Scott being the guy on offense. Every time they've asked Boston Scott in the past to step up, he has done it. They went with him 12 times. I thought he ran the ball hard. He's low to the ground. He's hard to find. He did a great job. So I'll give Sirianni credit for that. 2, you said it. We didn't play a top quarterback. Yes, the Eagles did not play a top quarterback. And in those games, they've been competitive. Well, guess what? The schedule coming up, they don't have a quarterback on this game list other than this week against Herbert, and the last week of the season, they're taking on Dak Prescott. Other than that, there's not a quarterback on this schedule that's anything better than what you saw from Jared Goff yesterday. I mean, Derek Carr would be better than every single quarterback the Eagles will face the rest of the season. Derek Carr is definitively better than every quarterback other than Herbert, who they play this week. After that, you will get Teddy Bridgewater, probably Trevor Siemian now. I mean, it looks like Winston's done for the year. Daniel Jones. I don't know who the Jets are going to play at quarterback. I mean, that kid yesterday, White, threw for 405 yards. Tyler Heineke, who stinks out loud. Jones again. Heineke again. That's the quarterbacks that are left on your schedule. Has John Gannon proven enough to you guys out there that if the other team doesn't have a legit quarterback as a weapon, that this team can be competitive? Jalen, watching the show on YouTube. Boy, Sirianni seems to have gotten the message across somehow. Kelsey broke down the locker room with 1, 2, 3 roots. I did see that, and I did hear that. It seems that much like the dog mask, this flower, these roots, this story has kind of escalated inside that locker room as almost of them against us mentality. And wow, did it show yesterday. The D-line showed up yesterday. Didn't see much from Sewell. Jalen's watching on YouTube. Yeah, the D-line absolutely dominated in the game yesterday. The defensive line, 6 sacks yesterday. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Darren in Millville says it means the Eagles are just a mediocre team. Guess what, Darren? If they're just a mediocre team, that's better than most people thought they were. If you're saying they're just mediocre, all weekend long, it wasn't they were mediocre. It was that they were flipping horrible. Now, here's the tweet that has people all ticked off at me. I don't understand it. I just, for the life of me, don't understand why this gets people mad. I guess I just think differently than people. Right? As I tweeted, with a Vikings loss to the Cowboys, the Eagles are 1 game behind the Panthers for a final wild card spot, and they own the tiebreaker against Carolina. It will be an ugly race for the 7th seed, to which the results, the reactions are just, stop it. Oh, stop. Barf. Stop. I mean, I didn't say the Eagles are making the playoffs. I'm saying, hey, if Minnesota loses, here's what I would like to know. Again, I'm not saying the Eagles are going to make the playoffs, but I don't have any reason to say, why can't they? Carolina stinks. Right now, if the playoffs started today, Carolina's in at 4-4. I get it. It's early. We got a lot of football left. But my question is, if we have a lot of football left, Carolina's a horrible football team. Minnesota stinks. Atlanta stinks. These are the teams that are all – the Eagles are 3-5. Carolina's 4-4. And you've beaten Carolina already. So I hate to break it to you. For the people who love being miserable, I'm sorry. This team is probably going to be in it for, unfortunately, for the mental health of people out there. They're going to be hanging around this race for a while. They just are. Now, somebody tweeted they're going to be 3-8 by Thanksgiving because they play Chargers, Denver, and the Saints. I don't know. Denver's not very good. The Saints are pretty good. I mean, the Saints' defense is legit. Their offense now with Simeon's going to be a different animal here. But I as much as I say, look, this isn't me saying, man, this Eagles team is really impressive. They're good. They look like a playoff team. It's no, record wise, they're right there. And the 4 or 5 teams that are in that mix, they all stink.
The point of the end of the day is that you have to, as somebody who is covering sports, have to tell the people what's up. And all you're doing is telling people what's up. All you're doing is saying, hey guys, here's reality. Now, if people don't like reality, that's on them.
Right. That's my answer to the people who got back at me. I said, look, this is information. You choose to do with what you want with this information.
Correct.
It's not me saying the Eagles will make the playoffs or that they're the favorite. All I'm saying is this is what the standings look like. Carolina's 4-4. Do you think they're good?
No.
Minnesota's 3-4. Are they a good team?
No.
San Francisco, 3-4. Are they a good team?
They're an injured team.
They are banged up, injured team, but currently at 3-4.
As constructed with all the injuries, no.
All right. Atlanta, they are 3-4. Are they a good football team?
No. Their defense is so bad.
So you have Carolina 4-4.
Yes.
You have Minnesota 3-4, San Francisco 3-4, Atlanta 3-4. Philadelphia is next. They are the next. They are 11th right now at 3-5. Seattle's 12th, 3-5. Bears are 13th, 3-5. The Giants play tonight. Christ, if they win, they'll be 3-5 and would be a game back. So from Carolina down, those teams all stink. This isn't Philadelphia's good. It's every team from 7 down stinks.
It's that the Philadelphia is in the same category as these other teams.
Right. You've already beaten Carolina, so you can't sit here and try to convince me, well, Carolina, you're not better than them. You've already beaten Atlanta handily, both on the road. So to sit here and laugh and say Philadelphia doesn't have a shot, after 2 teams that are a game ahead of you, you've already beaten, what does that say? That says sadly, and I preface this by saying it says sadly that you are in this. And what it is an indictment on the NFL for adding a 7th playoff seed. That is the problem here. The NFL should have never put a 7th team into this mix because now a team like Philadelphia, which is what the NFL wants, they want Atlanta and Carolina and Philadelphia and Minnesota. They want their fan bases to think they have a shot. Now, thinking they have a shot to win the Super Bowl is different from thinking you have a shot to just be the 7th seed, for God's sakes. This is like being the 8th seed in the NBA. You're a sacrificial lamb this year.
Yeah, it's all about making money at the end of the day.
That's what it's for. But at 3-5, guess what? You're in it right now. And if you play like that against your schedule coming up, you're not only going to be in it, you might just win it. The race for number 7, that is. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, 609-573-3776. The phone, 609-573-3776. Hit me up on the text board. I got to get your thoughts. Have you kind of turned the corner on Sirianni and Gannon after that game? Did that game do anything for you about the coach and the coordinator? 609-403-0973. Plus, the trade deadline's tomorrow. I have 5 names that could be moved right now at 973ESPN.com. Check that out. Brought to you by Matt Blatt Kia. They want to get you approved today. Matt Blatt, 6211 Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township. Mike McGarry with the weekend recap coming up at 2:40 today. Scott Grayson's grades. Jeff Mosher, football at 4. No Joel Embiid tonight. I got the details coming up. All right, coming up in 10 minutes, it's Mike McGarry. We'll take a look back at the weekend. Sixers with a big win over the Hawks on Saturday night. Speaking of the Sixers, no Joel Embiid tonight. It's a scheduled day off. The MRI on his knee apparently has come back clean. So all the people out there who felt like, hey, he should have got surgery or something there, doesn't seem that he has anything wrong with that knee. It's just more of a scheduled day off for Joel Embiid. They got a busy week coming up. It's like 6 games in 9 days or something. So I guess this one was going to be a game he was not planning to play regardless.
Yeah, this is 2 straight weeks that Ramona Shelburne has reported that Joel Embiid is playing with knee soreness. It goes back to when he banged knees with Valanciunas a couple weekends ago.
Yeah.
So apparently this is a lingering thing. And as we wrote over at 97.3 ESPN.com, the way she explains it is the idea is that Embiid is not going to play tonight, but he will be back on Wednesday because the idea is that they have a ton of games. Mike, they have 6 games in the first 9 days of November.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that I got Yahoos tweeting at me that, hey, he should have taken care of this meniscus instead of, wandering around Margate all summer long. Apparently, guess what? If he needed surgery on his meniscus, which, by the way, is not like major arthroscopic surgery,
No,
a
it's
meniscus
not.
surgery is a pretty routine cleanup more than anything.
Listen, walking around is actually good for your meniscus because the more you move your knee, the more blood circulation goes to the knee, which means
so he should have taken a walk up and down Margate.
He should have walked more.
Right? Go up Ventnor Avenue, go all the way up to Atlantic Avenue.
Beach.
Even when you get down by Washington Avenue, cut down Pacific.
Yeah, do a loop around.
Right. So keep walking around. He should have kept walking around. Yeah, they play Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So they got a plethora of games. So this was a scheduled day off for Joel.
Yep.
They'll play Portland tonight. Now, here's the question. Does the Wells Fargo Center crowd come up with any clever Dame Lillard stuff?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I just saw Paul Hudrick tweet, and he'll be joining us at 4:40. He says, if you're going to the Sixers game tonight and have a creative sign or a way to get Dame's attention, hit me up.
Oh, there's going to be some creativity tonight. You're going to want to watch the game just to see what the signs say in the crowd.
Michael Kasky-Blomain just tweeted, guessing we'll hear some "We Want Dame" chants at the Sixers game tonight. Is that the game? Is that the story of the game tonight? Is how much the crowd tries to entice Dame Lillard to consider saying, you know what, that those Sixer fans, they really were vocal. They want me there.
Listen, there's going to be an attempt. They're going to try, despite the fact that most of them are oblivious to reality.
Well, Dame's not getting off to a great start, by the way.
Listen, I screenshot the article from a week or two ago in The Athletic. Dame told The Athletic that he wants to be in Portland because he and Chauncey Billups are on the same page. And they said this offseason, he was like, I don't know what's going to happen. But after talking to Billups, he's sold. So unless something happens between him and Billups, I am assuming that Lillard is going to be a man of his word. I
agree with what he said. It doesn't sound like there's no reason to think Lillard's not a man of his word. He has been pretty clear in recent times in suggesting he will not ask for a trade. He's only averaging 18 points a game. He has struggled shooting the ball early in the season. I think he's
he went 0 for 9 from 3 in one game.
He's 23% from 3-point range, which is not good. By the way, on the flip side, CJ McCollum's 43%, and he's averaging almost 25 points a game. But the big thing, I think, for Dame and that whole situation is where he is in the standings. And right now, at 3-3, you're 500, and it's like if they get off to a hot start, which they haven't so far, but are they 500? And at what point are they 500? And he says, you know what? I tried. We're still only 500. Not good enough. Do they fall and get worse? Are they like 10 games under 500? And he says, look, we're 10 games under 500. I really wanted this to work out, but we're just not good enough. I think these are all things that could factor in here.
Well, there's another thing to factor in, which is Portland one of those teams that by the time December 15th comes around and they see that their record is not that great, that they're one of the teams that tries to call and trade for Ben Simmons.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're right. Okay,
But
so I'm looking at it from Dame's point of view.
right.
You're saying, well, Portland might say, look, we
gotta
kept
make
Dame. We're still only 500. Maybe we need a shakeup.
Right. And maybe it's not even trading Damian. Maybe it's trading McCollum.
Well, if you're at the Sixers game tonight, I would imagine there's going to be people Dame Lillard out of their minds. And it's Halloween. Maybe the whole place dresses up like Dame.
There's going to be some maybe like fake Sixer jersey with Lillard taped on the back.
Something like that. Hey, it's Halloween yesterday. Dress up like Dame. Just try to convince the guy to change his mind. I don't know. Have fun with it, though. Don't do anything stupid. Eagles win in impressive fashion. But how impressive was it, and what did we learn? The weekend look back with Mike McGarry's coming up on the other side as we'll look at that. The Sixers win, and also got the Giants tonight. Dallas wins last night, and what is up with the Washington football team? Holy mackerel. The NFC East is a disaster. But what does Mike McGarry think about the race for number 7? We'll discuss coming up next here on the Sports Pass Live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. 2:41 on a Sports Bash Monday. It's a victory Monday. Yes, you don't get to have the victory feeling all that often these days. But why did it happen, and what does it mean moving forward? Nick Sirianni and John Gannon both came out like different coaches on Sunday. By the way, that was a foreigner bringing us back from the break there. They played in AC Saturday night. You know how I know, Mike McGarry, that foreigner played in AC on Saturday night?
No idea.
You are – hold on. What did I do here? Nope. Oh, that's my fault. Go ahead.
No idea how you knew that.
Some guy asked me if I could get him foreigner tickets. And I said, what?
You know.
Right, exactly. Foreigner was back. Yesterday, total domination. So did this coaching staff turn a corner? Or is this a 1 week, hey, you're playing the Lions?
I think you take it week to week, right? I think a couple of things out of the game. First of all, what did we learn? We learned that Nick Sirianni will run the football, which was good to see. The running game was working well yesterday. He stuck with it. You know, in previous weeks, we were wondering, is he just going to throw it all the time? Is he pass happy? Does he not like to run the football? Well, I think yesterday you saw, okay, the running game was working and he stuck with it. The other thing that comes out of this victory for Sirianni and the coaching staff is I think we were on the verge of kind of piling on Sirianni, right? The narrative was turning bad. I didn't have much of a problem or really a problem at all with what he said about the flowers and stuff like that. It was an awkward metaphor, but I got what he was trying to say. And at least with yesterday's win, as convincing as it was, I think it sort of stops the piling on Nick Sirianni for a couple of weeks. If he had lost that game yesterday, things were going to go from bad to worse for him. And I think the bleeding has been stopped with that victory.
Right, so you win the game handily, and you do it with, 40-plus rushes in that game. So I guess the question is, Mike, is that a recipe for Philly to remain competitive? We know their schedule the rest of the way is not very daunting. They got a bunch of games against the Giants, Washington, Jets, Denver. So can you use that formula to remain competitive?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the other thing I think we learned from that football game. There's no doubt that Detroit is a bad football team. They're winless, 0-7 or 0-8, what they are. But that's the recipe for the Eagles, right? Run the football, some timely passes, and defensively pressure the quarterback, right? Where they have 6 sacks yesterday, pressure the quarterback, force some turnovers. Slay had the fumble recovery for a touchdown. That's the formula right there. And hey, you take it week to week. They're 3-5, and all of a sudden you look up and you got a San Diego Chargers team, I think, coming to town this Sunday that doesn't look as tough as they did maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. So, and a San Diego Chargers football team that can't stop the run. I think they're one of the worst defenses against the run in the NFL. So there's your recipe right there. Run the football and pressure the quarterback and see what happens.
Yeah, I know that I guess some people are skeptical whether they'll keep doing it, but hey, if that's a formula, I bring it to this because, Mike, if you wake up as Nick Sirianni, Howie Roseman, Jeff Lurie, and you see those standings today, you're 1 game out of a playoff spot. For whatever that's worth, the NFL should have never added a 7th playoff team in the conferences. But do you feel, if you are that group of guys, that you are in it? You are 1 game behind Carolina, who you've beaten already. They are 4-4. You are 3-5. Are you in it?
Yeah, the math says you're in it. I'm not going to get carried away with it. They're a group of what? There are 5 or 6 teams in that sort of mix. The Giants could join them with a win if they upset the Chiefs tonight. So
not get crazy now.
Yeah, I'm not going to get carried away with any playoff hopes. I mean, get back to me on week 12 or week 13, and let's see where the Eagles are. But the math says they're in it. I just think the way they played yesterday was the way they've got to play going forward. They didn't put too much on Hurts' shoulder. Again, I think we forget sometimes it's only his 12th start. It's a rookie season. They asked him to kind of manage the football game a little bit and not have to make all the big plays himself. And it worked yesterday. That's definitely a recipe going forward. It worked yesterday. Why wouldn't you come out and try to do it again this Sunday?
Yeah, and then John Gannon's defense. I mean, he had been criticized for not being aggressive. They had 6 sacks, but, it was a lot of different things. The safeties were a lot more in play. The linebackers actually weren't a problem. They played well in the game. I think we saw, Wilson was inactive. We saw less of Singleton. the game plan gave you some sort of hope that these guys maybe figured some things out. That's all.
Yeah, you absolutely hope so. And you hope they just didn't say, well, that worked against Detroit and we're going to bag it against Herbert this Sunday. I mean, Detroit is a team that I think notoriously had not thrown the ball down the field all season. They did not have a deep passing game in front. So the Johnny Gannon philosophy of keep it in front of you, don't let any big plays really wouldn't have been effective against Detroit because Detroit doesn't try to have big plays. They just try to just control the ball through short passes. So, hey, for 1 week, it looked good. It was against a bad team, but winning that football game, I think, takes the heat off Sirianni and the coaching staff because I think it was heading in a bad direction before this.
It was, Mike, because if they lose that game, all hell would have broken loose this week. The coach needs to go. You got to trade for a quarterback, the coordinator. Like, it would have probably gotten as ugly as it would have been, I don't know, going back to like the end of the Chip Kelly situation. Like, people, I think if they would have lost that game to that team legitimately, would have wanted that guy probably gone.
Yeah, the memes on social media, the flower metaphors, everything else. I mean, I thought it was like it was dangerously close to piling on. I thought it was a bit unfair last week, and again, like this win now, everybody can kind of take a deep breath. And
now, Mike, I don't know if you saw Kelsey. I mean, they're actually using it now. Yo, 1, 2, 3 roots. I mean, they're using it as like. It's almost that feeling of everybody out there against us. We're supporting the coach. We got what he was telling us. And, can they use that to propel? Who knows? But it seems that in that building, that speech got through.
Yeah, and that's good to see the players sort of supporting him. Again, I thought the criticism was unfair. It was an awkward metaphor, but I knew what he was trying to say. He was trying to say you put the work in, you put the time in, and you don't always see the results right away, but you might see the results in the future. That's all he was trying to say. And I thought the people, that the fans and media that kind of jumped on him, I thought it was unfair. And the players probably sense that too. And, they're coming to their coach's defense right there, kind of us against them mentality. You can never go wrong with that in professional sports.
Right there in front of you on the screen. There's your standings. Carolina, Minnesota, San Francisco, Atlanta, Philadelphia, Seattle, Chicago, New York, as you see right there. Are any of those teams on this list, any of them stand out as they would be the clear-cut favorite to earn that number 7 spot, or are all of these teams in the mix?
If I had to pick a team or two out of that awkward, tough group right there, I would maybe lean on the 49ers, maybe Seattle if they get Russell Wilson back. But I think the 49ers are a team to watch. I think they've had some injuries. I think they've got a good coach. If they get themselves straightened out, I would think out of that group, if you said, Mike, pick a team now on November 1st, it's going to get that number 7 spot, I'd lean on the San Francisco 49ers, basically.
All right, yeah, 49ers are 3-4. They did beat Philadelphia. Carolina 4-4. Philadelphia beat them. Atlanta 3-4. Philadelphia beat them. So if there was a tie situation, Philly would win the tiebreaker over both of those teams in front of them. They do not play Minnesota, Seattle, Chicago. They do play the Giants in Washington, and they do play the Jets still to come. So it is going to be an ugly race for that number 7. That's what we can say.
One thing, what it tells me right there is if you look at it, Dallas is running away with the NFC East. They're going to win the division. I think we can all agree with it. This sort of standings right here, this muddled mess right here tells me that if another team in the NFC East gets its act together and maybe finishes second to Dallas, that team is going to have a shot at the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the win by the Saints, Mike, kind of solidified them as that 6th seed.
Right. But
it just seems that the 7 seed is just going to be a disaster.
Yeah, that muddled mess. But the Saints win was big. But again, and I guess Taysom Hill is coming back this week, but they're going to lose Winston for a period of time. So it'll be interesting to see sort of how they do going forward. And they seem to have a hex over Tom Brady in the Superdome here. It just seems to be one of those places that Brady kind of struggles with. So it'll be interesting to see. Big win for the Saints yesterday, but let's see how their quarterback situation unfolds.
Yep, that there. Derrick Henry out for the year. Adrian Peterson, by the way, just signed with the Titans. So they've got, obviously, they lose Derrick Henry. So the football world had a lot of upside downness on Sunday with some teams. The Saints lose their quarterback. The Titans lose their running back. Let's go to the basketball real quick. The Sixers get a little revenge against the Hawks. Was it newsworthy, meaningful at all?
Better to win the game than lose the game. Obviously,
Sure.
this early in the season, I don't think the Hawks came in quite as mentally ready as the Sixers did. I sort of watched that game. I thought the Sixers played well defensively in that game, and obviously you take a positive. Like the Sixers got off to a slow start. They're in the midst of this homestand, right? I think they got a game tonight, Portland, Chicago on Wednesday.
No Embiid tonight.
No Embiid tonight, and they really, it amazes me when I look at the schedule. NBA teams playing 82 games. It seems like the Sixers are playing 75 of those games in the next 4 days or some reason. Like,
Well, that's why he's out tonight. This is a scheduled day off because of how many.
Yeah, why is this schedule so jammed? I don't know. They're playing tonight, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, the following Monday. That's ridiculous. But the Sixers had to sort of get their act together and sort of make some hay on this homestand, and they've done that so far by going 2-0. They got a nice boost back from Shake Milton a little bit. Maxey has played better. Embiid's been more aggressive. So there are some positive signs for the Sixers going forward.
All right, Mike, the football pairings are out. What are the standout matchups? What do you got your eye on this weekend?
Well, a couple of good things right here. We got a couple of number one seeds, right? Millville, a number one seed in Group 4. Cedar Creek, a number one seed in Group 3. We got another mainland regional Ocean City football game. They're going to be playing for the 5th time in the past 2 years. And the non-public, St. Augustine Prep. It's always a question of how they're going to do against those North Jersey non-public powers that are not only the best football teams in the state of New Jersey, but like Bergen Catholic's number one seed. They're one of the best high school football teams in the country. St. Augustine's got the number 2 seed in that bracket, well-deserved after their win in a monsoon Friday night over at Holy Spirit. So those are kind of the key things that I'll be looking for as we go forward.
All right, that Millville team's very good. I've seen them play. Ocean City hasn't given up a lot defensively. That should be fun. I watched Mainland play on Thursday night. They lost their quarterback for the season, so we'll see what happens in that rivalry game. Holy Spirit, St. Joe, they could possibly meet, I guess, if they both got to the finals, right?
Correct. They're on opposite sides of the bracket. One thing I would say, Holy Spirit lost to St. Augustine. They've lost 4 in a row. They're 3-5, but they played very well against St. Augustine last night. They're one of the few teams that kind of shut down the Hermits running game. Holy Spirit's getting healthy. So even though they're 3-5, watch out for them in non-public B. They're a number 5 seed. Watch out for them. They were once the number 1 team in South Jersey. They're a talented group. They were hurt by injuries. They're getting healthy at the right time. Let's see what the Spartans have going forward.
All right. For the full list of teams that made it, check out 973ESPN.com at AC Press McGarry. He's got plenty on all the football all week long over at the Press of Atlantic City. All right, Mike, we'll talk to you Wednesday.
All right, we'll see you later. Thanks.
All right, there's Mike McGarry. Good stuff as always as we look at the weekend that was. The Giants tonight, they take on Kansas City. You can hear that game after the Sixers and the Blazers on 97.3 ESPN. I am Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. And as we told you, 99 Bottles is back, and it's bigger than ever. And right now is your first chance to enter. It's our biggest party of the year, and it's back Wednesday, November the 24th. So right now, 609-573-3776. 609-573-3776. We'll take the first 3 callers. You are entered to win a spot in this year's 99 Bottles, which gives you a chance to win Club Box Eagles tickets to see the Eagles and the Washington football team in December. We've also got other great tickets like Flyers, Sixers, college basketball, concerts, and more. It's happening at Vagabond Kitchen and Tap House, 3016 Ocean Heights Avenue in EHT. The first 3 callers, good luck. All right, hour 2 of the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill, hanging out with you. A Eagles win victory Monday. How about that? Nick Sirianni, he knows what he's doing. John Gannon, he knows what he's doing. Scott Grayson's grades are out right now at 97.3ESPN.com. See that little violent femmes, little blister in the sun? It's a lot of partying. Feels good to win a football game. We'll get Grayson's grades right now over at 97.3ESPN.com. Scott Grayson, my man, what's going on, brother? Yo, Scott, you got me. You got me, Scott? Scott, can you hear me?
I'm not hearing you, Mike. Let me come out and come back in.
All right, he's going to come out and come back in. We'll see if we can get him back on. I heard him fine. We all heard him pretty good. You can check out Grayson's grades. By the way, while we're waiting for Scott Grayson to reconnect with us, Darren in Millville, Brian in Egg Harbor Township, and Travis in Smyrna, Delaware, you are our 3 qualifiers. They were the first 3 callers. They are entered for 99 bottles. For those of you out there who are new and don't know what I'm talking about, 99 bottles, go to our website, 973ESPN.com for details. But the 99 bottles party, it is a huge party. We have 99 bottles. Each bottle has a pair of tickets attached to them. Every single person who enters will walk away with a pair of tickets to something, including 1 pair of Eagles tickets for club box seats against the Washington football team. We've got tickets to go see the Flyers, the Sixers, the MAC basketball tournaments coming back to Atlantic City, concert events. You never know what we're going to pull out, but we will have 99 different tickets for the event, and it's all happening at Vagabond Kitchen and Tap House on November the 24th. It is a Wednesday at Vagabond in EHT, the EHT location, not the AC. Can you hear me, Scott Grayson? Are we back? We're good. All right. Well, Grayson's grades. See, I have the red pen here. This is typically what you're using for the grades every single Sunday, but I feel that the red pen got thrown out the window yesterday.
Well, I mean, frankly, that's the way that game should have gone, right? I mean, I was kind of asking the question afterwards, what did we really learn? We learned that they beat an inferior team, and frankly, I guess the biggest thing I took from it was they didn't take their foot off the throats of the Lions. They just kept, running it down their throats and hammering them and bringing the pressure on defense. So, look, it's a game they needed to have for confidence. It's a game they really should have had against that team. You looked at them and you felt if they just took DeAndre Swift away, that the Lions wouldn't be able to move the ball. And basically that's what happened. I was just glad to see that, both coaches, frankly, Sirianni on offense and Gannon on defense, went for the low-hanging fruit and did what they should have against that team.
Right. Now, you said it, you should have, but let's be honest, Scott, a lot of people coming into this game thought that they weren't going to do it. Like, people were picking the Lions to win the game. So I don't know. Is it impressive that they were able to do something that people didn't ask them to do, even though it's against a Lions team who, quite frankly, Scott, has played hard, has been in games against better teams? I mean, they were in that game. They really should have beat the Ravens. I mean, they lose on a 67-yard field goal against Baltimore. They're winning in the fourth quarter against the Rams. So there was some thought that this team was going to beat you.
Yeah, I think that sentiment was definitely out there, and I'm not going to lie, it was in the back of my head a little bit. The Eagles have come out flat plenty of times, and had they come out flat against the Lions, who have played hard, as you said, it just goes to show you never know what you're going to get. The Lions looked a lot like the Eagles. They were committing stupid penalties. They were committing bad penalties at bad times, helping the Eagles move the ball down the field. They were frankly, they're the team that looked flat and uninspired early in the game. And I mean, you could see shots of Dan Campbell just frustrated beyond belief with his team. They fought for him. They've played hard for him, and they didn't yesterday. No, I mean, you just never know what you're going to see. And that thought was out there. And frankly, I had been thinking if the Eagles did come out flat, if they did lose to the Lions, I felt like the finger pointing was going to be at a whole new level, and perhaps that locker room was just going to spiral out of control in the wrong direction. But to their credit, they did what they had to do. They all were pulling in the same direction. They were running the ball, which was fun to watch, and the offensive line was controlling the line of scrimmage. The defensive line was, making Jared Goff's life miserable back there. It was the way it should have been.
It really was. You gave Nick Sirianni an A. He's gone from an F to an A. Obviously, he gets a lot of credit for changing the game plan and sticking to a game plan. He didn't get away from it. He stuck with it. The question, I guess, moving forward is it going to stay with that? But he deserved an A yesterday.
Yeah, he did. He did because he had those guys ready to play against an inferior opponent so many times. I know you've seen it as a baseball coach, Mike, no matter the sport. When you go up against somebody who is less talented than you and is a lesser opponent, you oftentimes play down to the same level. Sirianni deserves credit. As much as I've bashed him before for not having the team ready to play, they were ready to play yesterday. They were ready to go out and win a game they should win. And they, just for confidence, they needed that. I think, this whole team needed that. And it was the way that they won that I think you can look and try to extrapolate it forward and say, okay, they did run the ball. They did dominate the line on both sides. They were aggressive on defense as well. They didn't give that amazingly awful cushion that they've given, and they made plays, frankly, on both sides of the ball. And now the question is, will Sirianni on offense and Gannon on defense allow these guys to play the same way against the Chargers?
Yeah. Scott Grayson's grades are up at 97.3 ESPN.com. Scott Grayson from Fox 29. Of course, you look at John Gannon. He got an A as well. And he made a couple little tweaks and turns to that defense yesterday. But what stood out about what they did defensively to hold the Lions to just, one score?
It was the blitzing. It was the extra pressure. It was the 8 men in the box, which the Lions had nobody that was going to beat you down the field. If he didn't have 8 men in the box, frankly, I'd have wondered what kind of mental help we need to get him or psychiatric help for not recognizing that kind of stuff. It was there. It was easy, but they did it. And the guys made the plays to their credit. Josh Sweat was quick off the line of scrimmage. I loved his explosiveness. You got to, for as much as we've ripped him, you got to give Derek Barnett credit for getting back there and getting his sack. Goff just couldn't afford to look downfield because they were right there and they were stopping the run. They made the Lions one-dimensional. They had them going for it on 4th down. I mean, they were really out of sorts. And I think that to Gannon's credit, he was bringing a 5th guy for pressure. They were doing some different things on the line to get there. And the linebackers were up there to make the plays they needed to make. They keyed on Swift. It was a good game plan.
Scott, you got a lot of A's here, but I want to talk a little bit about Goddard. And I know Sirianni just got done talking, and I was listening during the break, and somebody asked him about Goddard. But I had wondered if having Ertz around was making it difficult for for Sirianni to kind of balance their playing time and their targets. He had a good game last week. He had another good game this week. And you wonder if Sirianni is now focusing on letting Goddard be a bigger part of this offense.
I mean, you saw yesterday how much he needs to. To me, he is a force. He has explosive plays in him, and they've just got to give him the chance to do that. I think, you got to get Devontae Smith going at some point, and I'm starting to believe the way to do that is to work outside from working in. Hit Goddard, let him do his stuff over the middle, make those corners have to cheat on him a little bit, and then get Devontae Smith going. And I know we're going to talk about him, but to me, Goddard is a force they need to use. He's a good weapon to have. He doesn't drop the ball. He has great hands. To their credit, they found a guy who, at the time when they drafted him, remember they stole him from the Cowboys basically, and I think they got him to be the guy for when Ertz was eventually gone, and now it's his turn. And the question is whether or not Goddard will continue to produce with the opportunities he gets, and there's no reason to believe he won't in my mind. I think he's ready for this role, and this offense needs him to be.
Yeah. And then Howard and Scott, I mean, are we to believe that if Miles Sanders was there, he would have had a big day? Does he not trust Sanders, and that's why he went with these two guys? And the whole dynamic between Sanders and why they didn't use him, and then, is it just coincidental that, hey, we're going to run the ball? I don't care who the running back is, but I almost wonder, would you look to trade Sanders if you got something for him and go with a Scott, Howard, Gainwell, backfield?
Yeah, he's a name I'd keep an eye on for the next 24 hours. I think if you got the right price from somebody, you certainly could. Gainwell's a guy you can go to now. But see, that to me, you asked the question about would Miles Sanders have gotten carries. My question is, why was Gainwell not getting any touches yesterday, really, until – he came in and he had the part on the trick play. Okay. I get that probably, Boston Scott and Gainwell are virtually the same guy, and Jordan Howard was the change of pace, bowl you over kind of back. But I thought he looked good yesterday. And another question is, why isn't Howard now on the 53-man roster? Why are you leaving him out there on that practice squad where somebody could take him from a different team, after what they saw yesterday? There's a lot of questions out of that running game to me. I think Miles Sanders, it was more of the opponent dictated what they were going to do, and they just chose to go with that personnel over Gainwell. I think Miles Sanders, if he was there, would have certainly gotten all those touches as well, probably the ones that Jordan Howard got. But I think, look, they found a way to move the ball in the offensive line. Lane Johnson, I know he talked a lot about his mental health, but he also spoke about the running game and how fun it was to just blow off the line and beat somebody on the other side instead of dropping back and having to pass protect. Yeah. And I think, I hope Sirianni's hearing that stuff, because these guys, that's what they want to do more often than not. So let them do it.
You gave Devonta Smith a D. He had the drop early. And, quite frankly, I've been a little disappointed with him. And I don't want to give up on the kid, but I don't know that he dropped a pass in his entire tenure at Alabama. It seems routine that he's dropping routine passes.
Yeah, and that's why I gave him the D. It was kind of like after that first down, the first play of the game, it was like, oh, great, not again. Because that whole drive was, frankly, shot in their foot by that drop. It would have been a good 5-6 yard gain. You're moving down the field. You're getting closer to that first down right away on that first play. It put him back. And I feel like, look, you're a first-round pick. You're a Heisman Trophy winner. You did all that stuff, as you said, in college. You made the tough catches. Why? You got to make those plays now at this level. And it's not an isolated incident. It's happened over the last couple of weeks. And frankly, it's something he's got to find his way to work through. And I agree with you. I'm not giving up on him at all. I like the pick. I think he's going to he's going to have a great career here. I think he's going to be very productive. It's just a matter of getting him going. And I guess my question would be why they went away from it. Look, if you've got a guy you got to get going out there on the outside, get him going early. And I mean, one of the announcers referenced that. He's like a running back almost. Like, get him a couple of quick catches so he can get into a rhythm, and then you can go to him later in the game. But that's something that Smith and Sirianni and the guys on offense, they have to work through that together and find a way through it.
All right, Scott Grayson, I'll leave you with this. This is the current standings for the final playoff spot in the NFC. Carolina at 4-4 is currently a playoff team, and there's Philadelphia at 3-5. So are they in the race, or is this not really?
No, they're in the race strictly because they've got a lot of wins out there that, frankly, they will either be favored to win or will be tight games. The two Washington games, the two Giant games, the Jets game, there's 5 wins right there to get you to 8. 8 wins might get you into the playoffs. And, there's 2 theories here. Do you want to make the playoffs with this team? Do you? Or would you rather just kind of see this team find its way through here, and whatever they end up doing is fine, and then they go forward with their draft picks? But look, the Atlanta Braves have shown you, and I'm not trying to say that by any stretch the Eagles could be the Braves, but once you have a ticket to the dance, anything can happen. What is this team like in December?
I guess the question with this coaching staff and group of players is getting a playoff berth and playing in a game important. We all know the mentality of sports fans now, Scott. Lose to win, be worse to get better draft picks. That's the mindset of a lot of people now. The whole, hey, you play to win has kind of been thrown out the window. But in the NFL, is playing to win a better strategy, getting a taste of playoff football for Landon Dickerson and Jordan Mailata and a lot of these younger players that you're hoping are a part of your future. You're already kind of banking on Miami giving you a draft pick. So it's, in my mind, okay, it's great to have, 2, 5, and say 9. But if you have 2, 9, and 14, is that awful? No.
And I subscribe to the theory, Mike, of you got a lot of young players on this team, and if you can get them some, particularly on offense, if you can get them that playoff experience, that's very valuable. It's going to be a road playoff game. There will be no expectations of.
By the way, you've won 3 road games this year somehow.
Yeah, right. And so there will be no expectations of winning that game. You're likely going to a Tampa, Green Bay, whatever. But you know what? That experience is valuable, and I would put value on this young team. And if you decide Hurts is your quarterback, there's value in him getting that playoff start on the road in a hostile environment. And I think that's something you might look to build off of. But like you said, this coaching staff as well, that is young and inexperienced, getting that playoff experience for them as well could be huge. This team has the chance to get there. Let's revisit this over the next 2, 3, 4 weeks.
Scott Grayson's grades are up right now at 973ESPN.com. You can check out Grayson's grades after every Eagles game. And, of course, you can check them out on Fox 29. And we'll be back again with another edition of Grayson's grades next Monday after the Eagles take on the Chargers. So we'll see how this Charger team looks here in Philadelphia. They got to come across the country and play the Eagles. I think the Chargers are a slight favorite in that game. I think like 3.5 points to start things off. That would be a props and locks there for you. What do you like?
Yeah, that's something we'll, of course, touch on. And, it's going to be a measuring stick game to me, Mike. This is a statement game. If they can come out and beat the Chargers, I know they're not world beaters right now. They're coming off of a loss to New England at home.
Other than Dallas,
LA.
this is the best team they have left on their schedule.
Yeah, I agree. So go out and if you win this game, you'll start showing me something.
All right, Scott Grayson, of course, as always, here on Grayson's Grades. Thank you, Scott.
All right, you got it, Mike.
All right, check out Grayson's grades. Check out all the guys we didn't discuss. See what he graded them right now at 973ESPN.com. And, of course, Grayson's grades are brought to you by Boardwalk Honda. Nobody beats a Boardwalk deal from Maine to Miami online at BoardwalkHonda.com. All right, coming up, Nick Sirianni just got done talking. We'll have the press conference for you live. Let's hear what Nick Sirianni has to say about this victory. Is he committed to running the ball? Did he take something from the win? We'll hear what the head football coach of the Eagles have to say coming up next here on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, 3:23. You're going to hear from Nick Sirianni coming up in just a minute. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Football at 4 is on the way. Jeff Mosher's in the house today for our Football at 4. What will Nick Sirianni have to say? Is he committed to what he saw and did on Sunday? Hey, Nick, you ran the ball. It worked. We're not asking you to run the ball 45 times a week, but is this a formula that your team could use to try to get some more wins? 609 403 0973 609 403 0973. By the way, those of you trying to enter 99 bottles, we'll have another shot for you to enter today at 4:55, 2:55 and 4:55 every day here on the Sports Bash. We are entering people to this year's 99 bottles party, and the 99 bottles party is live at Vagabond Kitchen and Tap House in Egg Harbor Township, which Saturday night had a great Halloween party. And if anybody was at the Halloween party, I was just randomly taking pictures of people. I have those pictures posted on our website, 973ESPN.com, so you can see what people were dressed as for Halloween this year. I thought there was some clever stuff going on this year. Me, not so much, not so clever, but I'm not a big Halloweener. I don't like to there's people that go all out on Halloween. They put the paint on their face. I mean, they get real elaborate with stuff. I don't mind dressing up, but if I'm going to dress up on Halloween, I'm just going with whatever's around my house that I can come up with. That's it. I'm not doing the paint on the face. I don't want anything that's going to make me hot all night. Just normal clothes that happen to be around my house that, look like a costume. All right, I'm going to get to the video comments in just a little bit. We're going to go to Nick Sirianni's press conference right now here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN.
Of it. Hey, we had some good success early on running the football, being able to continue with what was working. But, obviously we want to be able to be balanced in our attack and with running the football and setting up some play actions from that. So the game allowed for that in the situation that happened yesterday. But then again, we see that we can run the ball pretty well. And so we want to repeat the things that we do well as also. So now that doesn't always mean that it's the style of runs that we ran yesterday, right? Each style of runs is going to depend on what the defense is doing and with their defensive ends and their defensive linemen and the front seven guys. But there's no doubt that we want to be able to run it because that will only help our play action game and help Jalen moving forward.
You get a joking text message from Miles, where was all this running when I was healthy?
No, actually, he texted me, "Hell yeah, coach," with all caps. Miles was obviously super excited for his teammates. Miles is a great teammate. He is a great person, great teammate, great player. I'm sure glad we have him on the team. Obviously, we're missing him right now and look forward to when he gets back. But that was his, in all caps, HELL space YEA. YEA, yeah. So that was his with an exclamation point after that. So
go ahead, Rube, and then Martin.
Hey, Nick, I wanted to ask you about Davante. He's had some drops the last couple games. What you see from him and what he needs to do to kind of get through this?
Yeah, my big thing with drops is I played wide receiver, and so when you have a couple drops and a couple games back to back, my experience with wide receiver and my experience as a wide receiver individually is that you don't want to go there. You want to fix the issues that happen. You want to fix the technique that happened with it. Like with both cases in Davante, they both were kind of, I don't know if you can see me, they both kind of hit him right there. Right. And so, you want to get those reps but you don't want to make a big deal about it because that is something a receiver dropping a ball. Like I want Davante to catch the ball really bad on 1st and 10 on the first play of the game, right? You want Davante to catch the ball really bad. The fans want Davante to catch the ball really bad, but nobody wants to catch the ball more than Davante wants to catch that ball. That's just a spot with wide receiver play that I've never went like. the coaching point, catch the ball, and getting mad at a guy for not catching the ball. Like, you fix what's wrong, right? You fix what's wrong fundamentally, and you move on from it. It's been my experience to never dwell on a drop. And you just try to build that confidence back up. He knows he has good hands. He knows he has great hands. We have a lot of confidence in him. And so, it's just duplicating that the style of catch that he dropped, which has been right in that midsection right there. Because, sometimes when it's right in that midsection, you're like, do I want to put my pinkies together? Do I want to put my thumbs together? Sometimes you get into this where you're not there at all. You're not in either of them. And so it's just correcting that and attacking that spot that he had a couple drops with. And so I'm confident he'll get out of that rut, but that's always been, obviously that's always been my thought as a wide receiver coach, as a wide receiver is, hey, fix the technique and move on.
Go ahead, Martin, and then Chris Franklin.
Hey, Nick, we noticed yesterday, obviously you guys sat Eric Wilson, and I was kind of wondering, if that A is performance related and B, is it also a product of wanting to get like guys like Davion Taylor on the field, and obviously Milton Williams played quite a bit. Are you feeling that the younger guys are getting more and more ready to play as the season goes along?
With Eric and with the way it went down, Davion was going to play. Davion was going to play a little bit more, and so was TJ. And then there was a role for Alex in some of the third downs areas. And so what it really came down to is, we don't have the luxury anymore to dress that many linebackers. So what it came down to was who was going to contribute more on special teams. And Sean has been such a good special teams presence for us these last this last 8 weeks of the season. And so, that was kind of a numbers game there of what happened and why we went there. But no doubt, we trust our young guys, and we trust the guys that, Milton, and we trust Davion, and when we're growing more and more confident in them, and because, they're giving us reason to. And so that was kind of the reason why, it was exciting, because we were able to give a game ball. We gave game balls obviously today. And when we had our team meeting, and Milton Williams was one of the guys on defense, was the guy on defense that got a game ball. So, I just wanted to throw that out there. Really excited about the way he played, and pleased with the way he played.
We'll go to Chris and then Tim McManus.
Hey, Nick, speaking of wide receivers, saw Jalen Reagor was carted off sometime during the game. Is there any update to how severe that injury is, and how did Quez Watkins and the other receivers fill in for him when he left?
Yeah. Well, no new update on Jalen. We'll see what happens this week. We're hopeful for this week, but we'll see as the week progresses. A game like yesterday is not one where the wide receivers, but are going to have a big stat game, right? But I thought Quez did a good job of blocking. I thought he was scrappy when he blocked and did his job. He had a big block on Jalen's jet sweep that we gave him that kind of sprung that one for an explosive play. So I thought the guys came in that filled in for Jalen did well. Quez did well in the return game, had one that could have got broke through there. A couple things happened on special teams there where it didn't. But guys that stepped in nicely. We're hopeful that we get Jalen back as soon as possible.
Tim and then Ed Kratz.
Nick, we don't have a perfect midway point of the season anymore, but curious to get your thoughts on your assessment of your performance through the first half of the first season as head coach.
Yeah, again, I'm just trying to lead with an example of how to get better every day. And that's, if I want our guys to get better every single day, then I need to strive for it myself. And that's first holding myself accountable for everything that happens on that field. And so I don't think I've ever lacked in that. Like, I'm gonna be the first one to tell you when it's my fault, and be able, just because I know that's important for leadership. And so and then so that really, I mean, I don't have a letter grade on me. I'd love to be 5-3. I'd love to be 8-0, and then and so I'll keep my letter for myself in my head. But if we were a little bit better with 5-3, I'd have a higher letter grade for myself.
Go ahead, Ed, and then Zach Berman.
Yeah, hi, Nick. I know you'd like to talk to every player when they get released. And I just wondered how you approach the trade deadline. Here we are 24 hours or so away. Do you talk to the players about this, or do you just kind of assume that this is business as usual for the NFL, and they need to be acceptant of whatever happens?
Are you saying if we trade them, or are you saying in before we trade them?
Before you would trade somebody, or people's names that come up in trade rumors, do you talk to them about it?
Yeah, I mean, you always just want to address anything. You want to address anything beforehand but there's a lot of things, and we can't really live in rumor world either, though, if you know what I'm saying, like, because there's a lot of rumors that are out there. And so, my experience is just to be honest with players and just to talk to players and be openly communicating with them. And again, rumors, are sometimes just that. And so there's nothing to talk about. But yeah, I always want to communicate with guys on everything and every subject, just because, again, that's the first thing. Like this connecting thing. I mean, I know I beat it. I know I beat the dead horse here of connection, but that's where it starts. And you got to connect with everything. And because that's where the player-coach relationship grows. And that's where, I think just the best teams happen, where the guys are connected and the coaches are connected.
Go ahead, Zach, and then Rob Motti.
Hey, Nick, what led to you going with Boston and Jordan over Kenny early in the game? Because that's a change from past weeks. And then going forward here, are you comfortable with Jordan on the practice squad, or do you think you need to get him on the 53?
Yeah, that's a good question, Zach. Again, we wanted that first series. We felt good about practice with Boston, and that's why we started with him, and just the week of practice that led up into it. With backs, I think I've said this before, like it's never going to be something like, hey, this back is having 20 carries, this back has 10, and this whatever the number is. Like, we're very aware that when a back gets a hot hand, we'll ride that hot hand. And that's just been my experience, and that's what we'll continue to do. A guy gets hot, we'll ride the hot hand. So that's kind of how that played out. As far as Jordan with the practice squad, bringing him up, obviously we're in constant communication with all these things. We want to be able to keep all our good players. If you brought Jordan up, then you have to put somebody down. So there's obviously, we know how important Jordan was to the win yesterday, and that we need him on this football team. And so, that's always in communication. Obviously, that's something we don't have to do right at this particular moment, but we'll keep talking through it as we go.
Go ahead, Rob, and then Dave Zangaro.
Hey, Nick, as you look at the standings now, near the midpoint of the season, that final wild card spot is within grasp. How much do you talk to, whether it's other coaches or the players, that the way things have shaken out right now in the NFC, it's still within reach despite any struggles that you've had along the way?
Yeah, Rob. Really what we always focus on is being 1-0 this week and winning the game this week against the Chargers. And so we're on to round 9. I think, you've heard me talk about the heavyweight bout, like round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, et cetera. Right. And so really, like in any game, and I talk about this with dog mentality too, like you can't focus on what might happen in round, we're on to round 9 right now, but what might happen in round 10 and 11 and 12, or what might happen with the other team that, and it just gets exhausting, right? When you're like, well, we want this team to lose, or this team. Like, my experience is you take care of your business and you win your round, and you keep doing it over and over and over again. You're going to put yourself in position to be able to make it into the tournament at the end of the year. But you don't do that unless you take care of one round by one round over and over and over again. So the focus is completely on the Chargers, how we're going to get better every single day, how we're going to have that same preparation that we had last week, this week, how we're going to learn the plan for the Chargers, how we're going to practice with the intensity and the detail. And so I know that feels like a little bit of coach speak, Rob, but that's exactly, I can only be honest with you. And that's exactly how I think. And that's exactly how I want everybody on this team to think, is just one game at a time, one day at a time. Don't look too far ahead. Don't look too far behind, unless it's to learn and to get better from.
Go ahead, Dave and Mike K.
Hey, Nick, 2 games in, Dallas Goedert being the clear-cut number 1 tight end. What's your assessment of his play been? And ideally, how big a part of this offense do you want him to be going forward?
Yeah, I think he's played 2 great games in a row as the the guy and the main guy. No surprise to me. That's why we felt comfortable with what we did with Zach. And, I saw Zach's had a couple good games as well. So happy for him as well. But we were really comfortable with that Dallas was ready for this role as to be the guy. He's excelled in it. He's blocked really hard. He's blocked really well. He's had 70 yards, I believe, in the last 2 games. He's had explosive play after explosive play. I would have liked that screen to go a little bit longer than he had yesterday. He had the 2 screens, but I wanted that one to go a little bit longer. He got a little bit wide on that. And I thought that would have turned into another big play right there had he hit it inside a little bit. But really excited about the way he's playing football. But again, not surprised to me. That's why we kind of moved in the direction that we moved in, and happy that Dallas is playing, and look forward to him continuing to be one of the main contributors to this offense in the passing game and in the running game.
All right, we'll do 3 more here. So go ahead, Mike, John, and Jeff.
Hey, Nick. I was curious, what's Kevin Patullo's role on marrying the run and the pass with the RPO game, and how does he work in concert with you and Shane on a weekly basis to make sure that you're kind of staying balanced but also getting the most out of the passing game?
Yeah, Kevin's a major, the reason we wanted Kevin here, or the reason I wanted Kevin here was to be here because I just know how valuable he is in game planning. I know how valuable he is with the wide receivers, and gives us the perspective of old wide receiver coach and an old quarterback coach. So Kevin's in every game plan meeting, and when it's just, there's never a time where when I think about it, there's really never a time where it's just me and Shane. It's usually me, Shane, and Kevin. Right. So Kevin, major contributor to what we're trying to do here, what we're doing here. And again, he does bring a wealth of knowledge in the RPO game. And he's helping us, make sure that we're meshed with things, and formations are meshed together with the run and the pass. Our run pass ratio is where it needs to be. Again, Kevin's, has just as much input and say as Shane and I in this whole thing. So couldn't be more happy that Kevin's involved, that's here with us. I was excited from the moment we were able to get Kevin here, and then he just continues to be the presence that we need him to be in the for our offensive staff. So super excited that we have Kevin here with our staff.
Go ahead, John.
Hi, Nick. Jack Driscoll, wondering if you had any update on him. And then linebackers, you talked about him a little bit earlier. Kind of wanted to get your thought from an offensive perspective. That's usually not a rotational position. Do you guys want to get to the spot where you have maybe 1 3-down guy or 2, or how does that affect from your offensive thinking when you're rotating linebackers?
Sure. As far as Jack goes, we're hopeful for this week. No new update really, but we're hopeful for this week. We'll play that day by day here. As far as the linebackers, yeah, I mean, that's a position that if you can keep fresh with some guys and some rotations, that's good. That's a good thing. I mean, I know they got to get in a groove as well, kind of almost in that similar aspect of running backs a little bit as well. But it doesn't, if they're rotating, if they're playing I guess I don't really think of it that way with a linebacker. Like, okay, if they're rotating, sometimes you can tell if they're rotating that you get information based off of what coverages they might play if they're rotating. But as far as if that affects you as an offense, I don't believe it does. Like when teams are rotating guys, unless there's a tell there. And what I mean by that is, like, if every time you were going in the game with this linebacker, you're playing this coverage, that would be something that the offense could take advantage of. So just like in the run pass area where we want to stay balanced, we need to stay balanced in that aspect as well, and make sure we're not giving any tells to the defense or to the offense when we sub in the different linebacker groups.
Last one here with Jeff.
Nick, how much was your time in San Diego with the Chargers? Obviously now Los Angeles, wherever it was. And how fundamental was it in fostering your offensive philosophy? And did you have any pause in hiring Shane because you both came from similar backgrounds?
So yeah, just I guess it was a little bit of both. Jeff, I was in San Diego for 4 years, and we moved up to Orange County, so we were all over the place a little bit while I was there. Yeah, when we were in there in offense, and Frank and I our staff we developed the system that we had there, and then when Frank became the coordinator, I became the quarterback coach. We really just obviously it was really big for my development that we were doing some of the things passing, that it was really we were a better passing team there than we were a running team. But we found some things fundamentally that we liked, some ways we attacked the defenses together. Obviously that bridged itself into Frank and I reconnecting in Indianapolis, which gave me the opportunity to have some success there, to be here. So obviously that was a big development part in my coaching. Also being around a player like Phillip Rivers, you gotta come with your A game as a coach every single day, because there's not too many things that guy hadn't seen. And so when I became the quarterback coach there, I had to dig and claw and scratch to give him a nugget that he might not have seen, because this guy would see everything. And so I just think I really grew as a football coach there, and some of the good coaches that we had there. As far as with Shane and Jeff, we were, when I'll put it this way, when Frank left to come here and to Philadelphia, and I stayed in San Diego. Obviously, Frank saw a different way to do it. I saw a different way to do it. And then we reconvened in Indianapolis, and it didn't look the same way we saw it. And, we both grew, right? We both grew, and we both saw different things. And so then our offense evolved there in Indianapolis to look I want to say completely different, but to look different than it did in San Diego. And that's my same thought here. Like Shane went and, I went and got back with Frank. And again, I knew how our system evolved, and I know Shane did the same thing when I left. And so, again, and that was what I was thinking. Like, again, you just don't stay the same. You just don't sit in your philosophies. You constantly tweak, and you look for ways to get better over and over and over again. And so every single week you look for ways to get better and get better every single day. So I knew that would be a good transition too, just like it was for us in Indianapolis.
All right, thanks for the time today, Coach.
There's Nick Sirianni. You heard him right here on 97.3 ESPN, his day after press conference, which seems to be jumping all over the place. They don't really have a set time like a lot of the other coaches have. I mean, randomly he has it at 3 o'clock or so on a Monday afternoon. But that's Nick Sirianni for you there. Couple of things that I thought stood out that I will bring up here in just a second. I want to tell you, Sports Bash is brought to you by Matt Blatt Kia. They want to get you approved today. Matt Blatt, 6211 Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township. Jeff Mosher has football at 4. Quick injury update. Driscoll hopeful this week. Jalen Rigger is hopeful for this week. We'll see as the week progresses. No updates on either guy, really. They both left the game with injuries. I thought he got asked an interesting question by Rob Motti about the playoff situation and Dallas Goedert as the number 1 tight end. We'll dive into all that and more coming back on the Sports Bash. 352. Don't forget, in an hour from now, you'll have another shot to register for this year's 99 Bottles, which is happening on Wednesday, November 24th. That's going to be at Vagabond Kitchen and Tap House in Egg Harbor Township. It'll be a huge 99 Bottles party. 99 pairs of tickets, including a Club Box pair of seats. Club Box, Eagles, Washington football team. That game's either on Saturday or Sunday. They haven't announced whether it's going to be Saturday or Sunday yet. And we'll be sending someone to that game. We'll have Flyers tickets, Sixers tickets, basketball tickets, concert tickets, all sorts of stuff. We've got prizes coming in out the yin-yang for this one. 99 bottles, 99 prizes, 99 entries. We got our first 3 entries today, and we'll have 3 more coming up in about an hour from now. So if you want to enter, 4:55 today. We'll take the first 3 callers at 2:55 and 4:55 each day, leading you up to 99 bottles on the 24th of November. Nick Sirianni just spoke. We'll have Jeff Mosher's take on the win, the game, what it means. But I want to get your text messages in right now at 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. A lot of stuff coming in over on the video board. Brett wants to know, Mike, what moves do you see the Eagles possibly making prior to the deadline? Brett, I have a post up on our website right now, 973ESPN.com. I got 5 guys who are most likely to be traded. So what kind of move? Any move that involves any of the veteran players. If somebody calls, they're going to listen. Fletcher Cox is hard to trade. Apparently there's teams interested. He's got, they restructured his contract. If they trade Fletcher Cox, it's a lot of dead money involved. So I don't see that happening unless they got blown away with a pick, like a first rounder or a second rounder, which I don't see happening. Derek Barnett is another guy who's got a weird contractual situation because of the whole situation with, the restructures this year. So trading Barnett's going to be kind of hard too. But these guys, I would think, have a shot to get traded to answer Brett's question. 1, Miles Sanders. 2, Eric Wilson. 3, Darius Slay. 4, Steve Nelson. 5, Alex Singleton. 6, Andre Dillard. Probably any other veteran, like Lane Johnson. Now, I don't know Lane Johnson's contractual situation, what happens if he were to get traded. I wouldn't be shocked if they traded Lane Johnson if somebody called. I don't know what's going to happen there. But any of those players, I mean, any guy who's a veteran player, you got these guys like Nelson's on a 1-year deal. Anthony Harris is on a 1-year deal. He missed the game, but I think they probably feel pretty good with Marcus Epps. They got Wallace coming back. So if somebody called and said, we want Harris, I don't know why they would. I'm just saying, those guys. But Alex Singleton, I think teams are calling about him. I think Eric Wilson, obviously. So those names. Mosher on the other side. You just heard from Sirianni. Eagles win. How they did it. Can they sustain it? You heard the question from Rob Motti. He asked about playoffs. Nick Sirianni's answer was very ramble-ish, but I'll ask Jeff Mosher. He sees the standings. Should they be focusing on that right now? It's football at 4 on the way. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Boston Scott. I'm about to go on radio, honey. What? I can't.
Football at 4 is powered by the
can't
Inside
get
the
up.
Birds podcast, and it is brought to you locally by Caesars Entertainment Group of Atlantic City. Come experience the ultimate sports destinations, Wild Wild West, Tropicana, and Harrah's Resort Atlantic City all season long. Book your game day experience today at Caesars.com. The Eagles win handily. Jeff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast is here. I don't know what's more of a surprise, how handily they won the game or the way that they did it, Jeff Mosher. What say you?
Yeah, probably both, Mike. And look, I know there are some people who are going to say, well, the Lions stink. It's just the Lions, no big deal. But I can't be that guy because going into the weekend, I said the one thing about the Lions is they've played a pretty tough schedule, and they took the Ravens down to the wire and lost on a fluky way there. They had a lead in the fourth quarter on the Rams last Sunday before blowing that. I mean, they've played hard and they've played tough, but the Eagles took the life out of them very early. And even if it's just quote unquote the Lions, I think you have to be respectful of the fact that the Eagles came with a mission and they pulled it off. And you saw some I'd say some changes from the coaches that really worked for this game. Now we can talk about, I heard you say it going into the break, the sustainability of it, right? The longevity of it is definitely up for debate. But if you're on a 1 week basis, the Eagles, let's put it this way, and you know this better than anybody. If the Eagles would have lost the game, it would have been Armageddon.
Yeah.
Right. It would have just been. So you have to give them credit for actually not just winning the game, but blowing the crap out of them. I think that's fair.
Right. And I feel like the same people who are saying it's only the Lions are the same people who said that the Lions would win the game.
Probably.
Right?
You have to be fair about it.
You're going to lose to the Lions. They're playing hard. Look, I picked the Lions to win the game begrudgingly. I didn't think Sirianni was ready to look in the mirror and say, I got a problem, right? I got to do something different here. Now, on Friday, I talked about it. I said, look, if he surprises me and leans on Boston Scott, that was the guy. I said, when they have turned to Scott in the past, he has bailed them out of a couple of games. And if you used him at Howard, for whatever reason, I don't know why they don't let Sanders have a role like this, but I don't know that this is sustainable. But do you see a difference in the offense with those two guys as opposed to Sanders? Obviously, the play calling is different, but are the plays different? Are they running the ball differently? Are these more running play designs? Was the RPO more run than it was a pass?
Well, I do see a difference, but I don't think it's because of the personnel. I think it's more because of the trend and the realization that they have to run the ball more. You started to see it last week against the Raiders in the opening drive. What the difference that you saw, and Miles Sanders was healthy for that, was going under center and playing downhill football. You go under center, you got a couple of tight ends, and you basically tell Jalen Hurts to rotate 180, hand it off to a running back, and get that guy going downhill, which is a lot. It's different than running out of the shotgun. It asserts the downhill style of run a lot more. And it's also a little bit more difficult for the defense to understand where the runs are going to go. A lot of times when you're running in shotgun, running back lines up on your right, he's going to the left. Running back lines up on the left, and he's going to run off to the right tackle. So downhill, to me, it was an important element that they added last week, and then they couldn't really get back to it. And they brought it this week. And again, 2 tight ends, sometimes 3 tight ends. So no, I don't think the run designs were any different because it's not Miles Sanders. I think you saw the seeds of it being planted, no pun intended, last week against the Raiders. And I have a feeling if Miles Sanders was healthy, this would have been the game plan as well, just for Miles.
Okay, not to get like completely sidetracked and go down to this, but would you anticipate one of these running backs being up for trade? I mean, you got 4 guys now. I don't think they'll trade Gainwell, but Scott, Howard, Sanders. I don't know how the Sanders things work because he's on the injured list. I don't know if you can trade him. You might have some insight on that, but after Sunday's game, does Howie Roseman say, I got to move one of these guys?
I don't think so. I mean, you're only one injury away from needing these guys. I'm not sure there's going to be a lot of demand. I'm not with the faction of people who think that Miles Sanders is not valued by this coaching staff. I think we saw in the first 6 or 7 weeks that they were just running a college offense with a lot of RPOs and a lot of passing. And you saw last week, they featured Miles prominently once they decided they wanted to be a downhill running team. So I don't think Miles is going to get traded. I'll never say never on anything, but I just don't see it. And I'm not sure how much of a demand there's going to be for Boston Scott or even Jordan Howard, who just played his first game. Now, I saw that Derrick Henry is out for the year, and they signed Adrian Peterson. So if the Eagles are smart, maybe they sign Jordan Howard to the 53 for the rest of the year just to avoid him getting pilfered by a team that loses a running back, especially since he played well. But I there are a lot of positions I can see some trades. I just don't know running back is the one.
All right. Before we get into some possible trades and what that tomorrow might look like, let's look back at some of the positives in this game. You had obviously a game dominated by the run. That was obvious here. But he was asked today, Nick Sirianni, about Goddard being the number one tight end. And it's apparent that, we had kind of hinted at like, hey, having Ertz here, it was kind of hard for him to manage both of those guys. And it's refreshing to at least see he has 9 catches for 142 yards in the 2 games without Ertz, that they would like him to be a bigger part of the offense. And I would go on to say, Moshe, I would like him to be even a bigger part of the offense.
I would like him as well. I think he is he's obviously their only physical presence at wide receiver because they have smaller wide receivers. And he is really a guy who commands attention at the middle of the field. We've seen yards after the catch. We've seen him get open at the seams. The thing is, he doesn't throw himself the football, though. So it's always going to come down to, does the quarterback see him when it's open? But I think the play calling is there. We talk about, like, you have to get the ball in the Devontae Smith's hands or Jalen Reagor's because they're wide receivers, and sometimes you have to call a play for them. Well, there's only one pass-catching tight end on this team, and he's usually running a route whenever there's a pass play involved. So you shouldn't have to say, let's run this play for Dallas Goedert. It should be there for him. And you're starting to see it over the last 2 weeks really come to fruition. And I agree with you. I think he should be, if not the most targeted receiver or pass catcher on the team, definitely the second most.
All right. So, I like the way they've been using Goddard. He's obviously, helps this offense out in between the hashes. He's certainly, even with the few passes that they threw yesterday, he ends up with 7 catches for 72 yards, 5 for 70. I mean, he had 23 yards a catch the week before. He has over 12 yards a catch here. So that should help things moving forward if they can keep that aspect. The passing game moving forward, we'll see. I mean, we don't know what's going on with Reagor. Watkins was not a part of the game, and Smith with the drop, and that was essentially his whole day yesterday. He had 1 other catch. That's a little concerning that you essentially have nothing from your wide receivers. I get it. It's a game that just got completely out of hand, but moving forward, they got to figure out how to get that aspect going. I want to go to defense. What did John Gannon do? What adjustments did he make yesterday? This defense in certain games, and it seems to be against the more veteran, higher level quarterback, they just undress him. What was he able to do yesterday? They dominated the game.
Yeah. So there were several things, and sometimes all it takes is a few minor adjustments to make a major difference, right? And I think to me, the 2 minor adjustments, well, you could say they were major, and I talked to you about this last week, that I felt they needed to stop playing a variety of different linebackers, and I even think I mentioned to you that there's no reason for Eric Wilson to be on the field anymore. And sure enough, he wound up being inactive. So what they basically did was play Davion Taylor and TJ Edwards in most situations when they were in nickel, which is what they were mostly in. And to me, that was a big difference because TJ is their best run stopping linebacker, and they've had trouble, as you've seen, stopping the run. So making TJ Edwards the guy there for the times that they're in nickel and they want to stop the run was big. So the second thing is that they brought safeties into the box more. We talked about how deep these safeties are playing, and you're giving all this cushion. So when you bring a safety into the box a little bit more and you have a better run stopping linebacker there and you do a better job on first and second down of keeping the opponent from, moving the chains or setting up short distances on second and third down, then you make them one-dimensional. And then you allow your defensive line on those third downs to really go off on the quarterback. And this quarterback in particular that they faced buckles at the first sign of pressure. But just to give you an example of the difference of just those small schematic differences, we mentioned against the Raiders that the Raiders went from like middle of the first quarter to third quarter I think it was like 36 plays. They saw 2 third downs, which is like almost unheard of that an offense would only have to face third down twice from the first to a third quarter, right? The Lions had to fit 14 third downs, and they were not very good on third down because the Eagles were able to finally play to the strengths and unload on the quarterback. Not even they blitzed a little bit. That would be the third change. You saw Alex Singleton come in on certain pass down situations, and whether he was the dime linebacker when they were in dime, and he was the nickel linebacker instead of Davion Taylor alongside TJ Edwards in the 2-minute drill, because that's when you know the opponent's passing, and he blitzed a decent amount. And so that obviously helped put pressure on the quarterback too. But really the defensive line, to me, got a chance to get off the ball quickly and get to the quarterback because it wasn't 2nd and 1 and 3rd and 2. You know, it was the right time for them to be able to rush the passer. By the way, Ryan Kerrigan showed up and had a couple of really nice pass rushes.
Okay, so how much of this, Moshe, then is you're playing the Lions and they don't have a lot of offensive talent. I mean, if there's an area where they really struggle, they don't have outside speed. The tight end's very good, and they have a back that can catch out of the backfield. So those are 2 areas the Eagles struggle with, the intermediate and the tight end. But how much of it is they don't have those weapons on the outside, and that allowed – because, in other words, if you made this linebacker change, is that a change that should help you in future weeks?
I think this will help them be a little bit more stout against the run, but that is obviously going to be answered next week. I imagine they're going to stick with this linebacker rotation that they have now, which I think makes sense. And I'm sure that against a team like the Chargers, they will try to, who can run the ball, Eckler. They'll try to bring a safety in the box at times just to make sure that they're doing their job against the run. But you're talking about a far more advanced quarterback, a far more advanced offense. And now that the tape is there, I mean, the Chargers could come out there with 2 tight ends, make it look like they're about to do a downhill running game, right, to suck all that defense in, as you just saw, and then pop play action on you and go deep to Keenan Allen. So we always see this. For every action, there's a reaction. So we'll have to see how the Chargers look at this tape and see what they want to do. But the personnel, there were too many one-on-ones in pass protection that the Lions could not win because they were just so depleted on the offensive line. I don't think that's going to be the case with the Chargers, where they're just going to get completely swallowed up by the Eagles defensive line all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you had Josh Sweat had a great day. Milton Williams, I thought, really, he was coming from the inside a lot too. There were times when him and Hargrave were on the field together, and Milton Williams is getting pushed from up the middle. I thought he really made a difference both against the run and in the pass, getting interior rush. He really added something that they haven't had. I don't know if he got more snaps this week or did they use him any differently?
No, but they used him mostly from what I saw on the inside. So that's really where I think he's best as an interior pass rusher. When he's on the outside, it's to stop the run. But most of the times I saw him, if not all the time, was as an interior rusher. And yes, he did a really good job, both against the run and the pass. And that was an area that the Eagles should have exploited. The Lions, their center, who's very good, is on IR, Ragnow. Their right guard, or is it right guard or left guard, is also a backup guard. I mean, the left side of their line's all right with Sewell and the left guard, but the center, right guard, and right tackle are all kind of replacement level players who are just not that good, and that should have been a win for the Eagles.
Yeah, and they took advantage of it. We'll see how much John Gannon can take. You wonder how much did he listen to his guys, implement that. That was a big theme during the week. Hey, I'm going to listen to Fletcher Cox. I'm going to listen to these guys. And then it's us as coaches that need to take what they say and implement that. So we'll see how much they implemented that for just this game. Is it a week-to-week thing? Because, Moshe, this will be the best quarterback. I mean, him and Prescott, who they don't face to the last week of the season. But other than Herbert, they don't have a quarterback left on the schedule that's much better than Goff, right? No. I mean, so he has struggled. This defense has struggled against the top-tier quarterbacks, and they have essentially dominated the lesser teams. It's such a bizarre thing. It's either one extreme to the other. They either dominate the game, the defense, or they're horrible.
No, I agree with you. I mean, and especially with Jameis Winston getting hurt, right? I mean, that is it. Trevor Siemian, I guess, the rest of the way for the Broncos. So you're talking.
They're going to get, what's his name back? The Wildcat kid. Who's the quarterback?
I can't. Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill. Right.
They're going to get him 1-0 against Taysom Hill. So
he would be back by the time Philly
by the
plays
time that
there.
game rolls around. Yeah. But even so, I
Well,
mean, so you're talking
the
about Taysom
quarterbacks
Hill
left
and
on the list. You got Herbert, Bridgewater,
right,
Taysom Hill or Simeon,
mm-hmm.
Daniel Jones. I don't know who's going to play. Maybe Joe Flacco for all we know.
No, not after that Mike White performance.
Right. Well, you know what happens there. And Tyler Heineke, Daniel Jones, Tyler Heineke, and then Prescott.
Right. So you got about 6 or 7 games there where, the offense that you'll be going up against will be challenged. And some of those teams are pretty good defensively, though. So it should make for some pretty interesting games.
Well, Denver's defense just took a hit today. They lost Von Miller. He just got traded to the Rams, obviously. Yep. So you're going to play them a little bit weekend, which then kind of takes us down the road. Rob Motti asked a question about the playoffs. I tweet this out yesterday. I mean, like, people act as if it's how dare you suggest the playoffs? They're literally one game behind Carolina, who they've already beaten.
Yeah.
This isn't me saying that I think this is a good football team. This is more an indictment on the NFL adding a 7th wild card. You know what I'm saying?
How dare you? Exactly. How dare you, NFL, make it so that very, very mediocre teams can make the playoffs is really the question.
Exactly. Yeah. I said, and I even tweeted, this is going to be a ugly race to number 7 here. But if I tell you Carolina at 4-4 is 7, and you at 3-5 are the next group of teams out, are they legitimately, should they be focusing? If you're Nick Sirianni and this crew, are you saying, look, we are in this thing, guys?
I don't know.
Is that their agenda? Is that their goal? Is that what they want to be?
I mean, it's a nice carrot, but it doesn't really mean as much to me anymore. I mean, look, it's almost 2 different conversations. The coach can use that as a rally cry, and the players, of course, want to make the playoffs and do the whole anything can happen. But if you're judging this team on what it is, I mean, the Miami Dolphins made the playoffs last year. They're 1-7 right now. The Giants almost made the playoffs until the Eagles had that, kind of a tank job at the end, and they're terrible. And the Washington made the playoffs, and they're terrible.
Well, Washington not only made the playoffs last year, they almost beat Tampa Bay.
That's a great point. So I don't know. I think the Bears actually snuck in also to the playoffs last year.
Did
they not? Yeah.
Yes.
So
now,
they're not.
Washington
they wound
game,
up reshaping their whole team. So.
The Washington game was in Washington because they won the division.
Right. So you can if you're the coach, sure, you use that as the rally cry. We're in this thing, but if you're a fan or just even someone in the media and they have a chance to make the playoffs, like me, I'm not going to even. Who cares? What does it mean? So what? Is it? I mean, for this team, I say, wait, hold on. Let me just clarify. For this team, I mean that because this team is a team in transition that's going to look a lot different next year. So could it be a good building block to say I have playoff experience? Feasibly, maybe, but it didn't for some of those teams we talked about.
That goes down a whole nother rabbit hole of the fans out there. They want Roseman gone, just making the playoffs prolong. Hey, this was a year that we were supposed to be in transition, and we made the playoffs.
That's a fair point. I guess some will look at it that way. Like the Bears, everybody thought Ryan Pace and his team were going to get fired, but they made the playoffs. So maybe that's what bought them an extra year. I don't know. I tend to think no one was getting fired anyway after this year, but it is what it is. We'll see what happens here over the stretch.
Yeah, well, it's like this weird dynamic. We went through it with the Sixers and their process, and you had half these people, it almost feels now that the world has so shifted to, I just want draft picks. Why are we even winning this game? Who cares? Let's get draft picks. And it's at what point for an organization, you've already got the Miami pick. Be happy with the fact you're probably going to get a top 5 pick through basically a trade by the guy you want fired.
Yeah. And then the other great is the same people type comment, or the same people who say that Howie Roseman struggles with his draft picks, and they're correct on that, are looking forward to Howie Roseman making 3 first-round draft picks. It's kind of a weird
that's the problem.
there.
No, the dynamic that you get is they're going to get 3 picks. Well, then the answer is, I don't want the guy making the picks to make the picks, so it doesn't really matter.
At least that's
if that's the case, then you might as well just make the playoffs.
I guess so.
And then the circle continues. Well, if I make the playoffs, then the GM made the playoffs again. And I said, literally, this team in 20 years, they've had a losing record 5 times. They're doing something right. You hate to look. You hate to say it because I know people don't like the guy, but in 20 years they've had 5 losing records. That's it, 5.
Yeah, but that 20 years they've also had 3 different shot callers, so it's not like The only thing that's similar is the owner. So you can ease up on the owner if you want on that. But certainly those 5 times have all happened, in the last 6 or 7 years?
Well, they've had back-to-back losing
Chip
seasons.
Kelly's last 2 years, Doug's first year, Doug's last year. That's
No.
four right
Chip
there.
Kelly's last 2 years, they
didn't
won
make the
10
playoffs.
games the 1 year.
But they didn't make you said make the playoffs, right?
No. I said they've had a winning record 15 out of 20 seasons.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, now we're
They've
moving
only
the
had
bar
5.
a little bit here.
No. I said they've only had a losing record 5 times in 20 seasons.
I got you. Well, if you're the type of person who judges it on playoffs, though, they've
Because
missed the playoffs 5 times in the last 8 years. So, I mean, that's not a good
the
thing
Chip
either.
Kelly team, the Chip Kelly team won 10 games and didn't make it.
I thought it was 9.
His first
Wasn't it
year. I
9?
think they went 10-6 the first
Well,
year.
they made it the first year. They lost to New Orleans.
Maybe the second year.
The second year, I think there was 2 9-7 finishes. And maybe you might be right. It might have been a 10, but yeah.
The two they had back-to-back losing records one time in 20 years. They went 7-9 and 7-9. And if they have a losing record this year, it will be the second time they have a losing record in back-to-back seasons in like 25 years. Like, what franchise has that run? It's preposterous to think about.
Yeah, just the Steelers and the Ravens and probably
That's
just
it.
like only 3 or 4. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's very few teams that can beat that don't have a back-to-back losing year. And it's probably going to happen this year, likely. But yesterday was a breath of fresh air just to see, hey, it goes to show, I think that the moral of the story is how poorly game plan they've been. And then if the coach just comes in with the right game plan and has them prepared, this could happen.
Yeah.
Not weekly, but you should be more competitive.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the one thing that I really take from this, if you want to talk about translatability and moving forward from what the coaches may have learned, is that, once the Eagles started running the ball downhill, and I mean, it was pretty transparent what they were doing, right? And of course, the Lions were going to adjust, which they did. They started putting as many guys in the box as they could. And the Eagles ran it all over them anyway. Now, you're not playing the Lions every week, but what I saw was a really dominant performance by Landon Dickerson, which you haven't seen yet, and that was good. Obviously, Jason Kelce. I thought Nate Herbig played well. I mean, we know that Jordan Mailata, this is a really good offensive line. We know that. We know it's a mammoth one.
Yeah.
And I don't care that the Chargers have a good defense. I mean, actually, lately they haven't played great defense.
Right.
So there's no reason why you can't say, hey, if we put our best 5 out there, throw a couple tight ends on the field again, and run downhill, we should be able to get some good yardage on this team.
Agree.
Even if they bring a safety into the
Agree.
box.
And then
let's
that
be
opens
tough.
up Goddard, and then hopefully you get the receivers in the play action game more, and it gives them more room to roam.
See, that's where I have an issue, Mike, and I hope that things are changed, because when you run the ball like that, especially under center, what you want to ideally do is then set up an opportunity for Jalen to fake that handoff, Jalen Hurts, and then find guys downfield. Of all the times they did it, I only saw one play action pass from under center. And that was curious to me. I thought, why wouldn't you have even when you're up, why don't you work on it a little bit? You got a 20-something point lead. And the fact that they didn't do that is like a minor flag to me that I'm going to be looking for going forward.
All right,
and also the fact that Jalen did not, for all that great running, had some there was one play where he only faced a 3-man rush and he got out of the pocket too early and left a play on the field and wound up incomplete to Goddard. And then it's like, come on, 3-man rush, stay there. You got all the protection in the world. So that's still a part of the element of the game that we're trying to see him improve at.
And I'm glad you brought up Dickerson, because I agree. I thought he had a mammoth day. Him and Mailata were blasting.
Oh, God.
Mailata was literally driving his guy back. He dominated. There was one play he got beat and Hurts stepped up and got out of the way there. But Mailata dominated, and Dickerson the two on the left side, they had a day, those two.
I think the Lions D-line is going to see those guys in their sleep for the next few nights. I really, because you're right. I mean, those guys were just coming at. I mean, when you have Dickerson line next up to Mailata, you basically have a 380-pound guy and a 355-pound guy coming at you, and that just can't be fun.
Hey, man. Hey, that's your future right there. You're hoping that the future's now Dickerson, 2nd-round pick, Mailata, signed long-term. Those two guys could be playing together for a long, long time. Jeff Mosher, Inside the Birds. Check out the podcast. It is out with the reaction, and they'll have all more details sourced Scouting Eye, and much more all week long over at Inside the Birds podcast. And get it wherever you listen to your podcast. And, of course, Moshe is back on Wednesdays. We start to take a look ahead to the L.A. Chargers, who are in Philadelphia this weekend. All right, Moshe.
All right, man. Talk to you Wednesday.
Yeah, man. Jeff Mosher, of course. DeCecco is in tomorrow. Mosher's back on Wednesday. This is the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. You can download the app in the Apple Store or Google Play. You can message us through the phone. I have some messages from the phone that I will get to. We also have a chance for you to qualify for 99 bottles coming up in just about 22 minutes. So stick around. Plus, Paul Hudrick joins us. Joel Embiid is out tonight. Should we be concerned in 13 minutes? World Series has the night off. The Astros down 4-0 after a grand slam home run, but they come back and win the game to keep that baby alive. We'll have the game tomorrow night after the Sixers and the who the Sixers play tomorrow night. They play the Flyers, Arizona tomorrow night. So Flyers tomorrow night, Sixers tonight. We'll have World Series Game 6 tomorrow. What's that? Duvall hit the grand slam last night in the first inning. And you had to imagine that that's it. You're on the road. The place is going bonkers. And here come the Astros. They're down 4-0. They win Game 5, 9-5. But they trail the series 3-2. And they head back to Houston, tomorrow night. We'll have that game for you, as I mentioned, after the Flyers game. So that Saturday night was great. This series has been pretty good. I mean, you had a lot of back and forth. You've had close games, good pitching matchups. I mean, it's been a pretty good series. I don't know how many people are actually paying close attention to it, but it has been a pretty good series. I hope we get a Game 7. Tomorrow night, you get Game 6, and then Wednesday night. So baseball kind of bit the bullet and went up against football on Sunday and just decided, whatever. And that means hey, if we can get to 6 and 7, we're going to own those 2 nights. So I would imagine it's been a good series, back and forth, that if they get to 6 and they got to 6. If they get to 7, I think you're going to get some good ratings. Not out crazy numbers, but I think you'll get some interest in that 7. And tomorrow night, because you got 6 all by itself. So you got that tomorrow night and 7 on Wednesday. Busy week here on 97.3 ESPN. Sixers Portland tonight, followed by Monday night. Jets, Colts. And then the weekend, we got Notre Dame, Navy, Sixers, Bulls, and then the Eagles on the weekend. So we're going to get into the Sixers on the other side. Football in the 5 o'clock hour. We got all the football. Casey Joyner, One Thought every game. And Jeff Kerr will be taking a look at the inside the NFC East as we do Mondays, as always, here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. When we come back, we'll talk to Hudrick. And then, 20 minutes from now, I got another chance for you to qualify for 99 bottles. We had our first 3 qualifiers. We'll do our next 3 qualifiers in 20 minutes from now here on the Sports Bash. This hour brought to you by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets, take your profit, find out how at PropSwap.com. Download the PropSwap app today. If I say at 3-5, the Eagles have a shot to make the playoffs, does that anger you or excite you? What kind of person are you? 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. At 3-5, the Eagles have a shot to make the playoffs. Does that anger you or excite you? What kind of person are you? Let me know. Hit me up. Text me 609-403-0973 or use the free mobile app on your phone and message me through the mobile app. I'll read them off coming up in just a little bit here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Sixers tonight against Portland. We'll take a look at it. No Embiid tonight. Any reason to worry? Paul Hudrick will join us right now as we look at the Sixers and the Blazers tonight. You can listen to the game on 97.3 ESPN. And then a busy week for the Sixers, Paul. So no Embiid tonight. And obviously everybody's in a panic mode whenever he doesn't play. Is it something with the knee? Is there something long-term here? My understanding, and you can kind of follow up, this was a scheduled night off for Joel Embiid, and it has a lot to do with how busy they are coming up.
Right. That's the understanding, Mike. Is like, look, he wasn't even on the injury report ahead of Saturday night's game against the Hawks. So there's no reason to believe there's a knee issue. I saw Ramona Shelburne as well from ESPN reported that he had an MRI. Nothing showed up. This is planned. They play 6 games set in 9 nights. They have a couple back-to-backs. This is the opportunity. And I know some people have wondered, well, why not maybe do it Thursday against Detroit? Well, if you do it tonight, that's 3 straight days he gets of rest. If you do it Detroit, he only gets 2 days, or if you do it any of the other games, really. So this is an opportunity to get him 3 straight days off. If there's any residual effects of that knee, which, again, we understand to believe, just like, a knee-on-knee collision. So just needed a little time to heal. This gives, him an extra couple days. So, yeah, nothing to worry about from what I understand. It's a scheduled rest. It's a little bit of a bummer, obviously, that it comes on the night that Damian Lillard's in town. But, I think if you're a Sixers fan, this is the best deal for him and the team long term.
All right. So in the past, if Embiid is out, they had big problems. How are they more equipped now? And what do you want to see without Joel Embiid? Do they run who do they run their offense through? Who gets an uptick? What will this team look like without Joel Embiid?
Obviously, Andre Drummond takes over as the starting center. And I think, he's been a little bit up and down the last couple of games. But I think overall, if you don't think that he is a fairly significant upgrade over what we saw from Dwight Howard last year, I mean, I think you have to take a second look. I think he's much more mobile. He's not the kind of guy, if in a Dame Lillard pick and roll, you don't want him switching on Damian Lillard, but he can show a lot more aggressively, trap more aggressively, blitz that a lot more aggressively than what we saw in the past with Dwight Howard. He's a much, much, much better passer than Dwight Howard. The rebounding's still there. The rim protection's still there. Despite him being, getting fouled out at one point last week, he's a much more disciplined player. So I think from that standpoint, they're much better equipped than in years past to have a guy like Andre Drummond take over as the starting guy. I think, too, something I would look out for, Mike, is Tyrese Maxey and Andre Drummond in the pick and roll. I think they showed a lot of chemistry in that regard. That's not something that Embiid really excels at, but it's something that Andre Drummond is very good at. And that, we've talked many times about Tyrese Maxey and his prowess using ball screens. So that's something I would look at. Of course, Tobias Harris is going to have a much bigger role. So I saw some prop bets about him. Take the over on maybe all of those things tonight because he's going to be a big part of what they do. Seth Curry's off to a very good start. So I imagine, that's going to continue. He's going to keep seeing his role increase. And I mean, I'm more curious, Mike, what happens after Andre Drummond goes to the bench. Does Doc opt to go to that, George Niang at the backup 5? Does he use Paul Reed more? I'm very intrigued to see what he does. He might give us a little bit of information when we talk to him at 5:15. But for now, that's kind of a wait and see thing.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. You said Embiid, that's not something he excels in the pick and roll, and you wonder why. Like, why does he struggle so much in that aspect?
It's something I know Brett Brown talked about it in the past that he just doesn't really care for rolling. It's just not something. And it's weird because you feel like he's the type of player that would just be great at that, and it would be a way to get him some easy looks. And he's become a better passer.
And Paul, because we've heard a lot of criticism of Brett Brown and Doc Rivers that why doesn't this team pick and roll as much?
Well, that's just as much too on the fact that this team has had a point guard that doesn't shoot the basketball. That's as big of a part of it as well. And that may be a reason why Joel Embiid never got very good at that and never did it a lot because they couldn't do it, quite frankly. With Ben Simmons, it's just not, with all due respect to him, it's just not a threat. With Tyrese Maxey, you have the threat of, now especially, a step back 3, a mid-range jumper, a drive. Like you have so many more options at your disposal when you have a guy like Maxey that's so good at using those screens. So maybe that's something that they could do more of. I mean, I think, Joel Embiid's been pretty good in the past with dribble handoffs. I think that's something they can exploit more of with Tyrese Maxey in the lineup. But Yeah, I mean, as far as a pick and roll player, it's just something that Embiid never had to do. And a guy like Andre Drummond, he's been doing it his entire career. So I just think, in a weird way, it's better suited. Clearly, any lineup with Joel Embiid is better than any lineup the Sixers could put out there. But I think there is something to that where I think Maxey, could have a big night using Andre Drummond as a screener.
All right. I want to get your take on Saturday against Atlanta. Obviously, a dominating performance. I mean, they really, much different from what we saw in that series against Atlanta. So what went right? What went well Saturday night that this team can maybe build off of? Because, you watch this team without Ben and you're like, okay, even if Ben comes back, I don't know that makes him a championship level team because we know his limitations unless he comes back a new guy. But you just feel kind of, this team is what it is without Ben Simmons. Why was Saturday different?
Well, I think it starts with how good of first Tyrese Maxey did do a really nice job on Trae Young. I want to give him a ton of credit for that. But overall, their team defense was outstanding. Because, when you're talking about a pick and roll, it's not just the guard that defends that. That's Joel Embiid as well. And Joel Embiid, he's been up and down offensively, but defensively, he's been fantastic to start the season. Like, really, defensive player of the year type of level good to start the season. And his pick and roll coverage against Clint Capella, that's a big part of that. And again, the whole team was good. Tobias was really good. Danny Green. Seth Curry got picked on a little bit early by DeAndre Hunter, but he held up enough. And then I thought, again, I think Joel Embiid, the impact he made on shading a little bit towards Hunter's way, I think that deterred Hunter a little bit from, using his size advantage. And maybe he settled for a couple jumpers where maybe he, in a different situation, different center, he would have looked to drive to the basket. Then the second unit in general is just so much better this season. George Niang, the difference he makes, Gallinari killed them last year in the playoffs. Gallinari was 2 of 6 for 4 points. That's a huge, just George Niang being a competent backup 4 that has the size to go toe-to-toe with Gallinari is huge. And then that's not even including what he adds on the offensive end as a passer, as a shooter, as a guy who just understands floor spacing. I thought Shake Milton, he's played 2 games and he's looked pretty darn good in both. And I thought, with all due respect to Furkan Korkmaz, who filled in pretty darn admirably as the backup point guard, that's not his natural position. I think with Shake Milton, and again, he's not really a natural point guard, but I feel like the team has looked more organized. The second unit's looked more organized with Shake as the backup 1. And then the last thing I'll say is Matisse Thybulle. I mean, he wrecked that game from the moment he got in there. Cam Reddish probably saw him in his nightmares. I mean, he was sensational on Saturday night, and that just shows you the impact. If he can ever just be an okay offensive player, the impact that he has on the defense. I mean, he is a defensive player of the year potential kind of guy. I think he's that good.
Yeah, it's a shame his offensive game hasn't really taken another step, right? I mean, it almost seems as if it's taken a step back.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I mean, his shot, it's I think it is a confidence thing because I don't think there's nothing like wrong with his jumper. It just, it just doesn't go in. I think he's just got to get more shots up. I mean, he did shoot the ball pretty decently against Team Australia. I would push back a little bit against the notion that he has regressed because I think there are a couple things you see with him as a cutter, him running the floor in transition and just kind of using his speed to beat people down the other end. Playing sometimes in that dunker spot. I mean, I think there are little things he has done that have been better than we've seen in years past, him understanding spacing a little bit better. The big thing for him is just the shot. He's got to become a better shooter. If he can just be an okay 3-point shooter, league average type, 35, 36%, that makes him, that puts him on another level and it allows you to play him more and play him in different lineups.
Right, because they got to be able to find more minutes for him. They have to suppress his minutes so much because of how little he gives them offensively. It seems anyway.
Right. And I think that's why I'm not sold on the idea of George Niang as a small ball 5, but if you can get away with that against certain teams, I think that helps Matisse Thybulle more than anybody because, with him and Andre Drummond on the floor, you're running into similar issues you did last year with Dwight Howard. Again, the fact that Drummond can actually pass the basketball helps Thybulle because then he can hit Thibault on those backdoor cuts or find him, on those little screens and things of that nature. But without the spacing of a stretch five, it hurts Matisse Thybulle. So again, I'm not sold on the idea of that lineup of Georges Niang playing small ball five, but if Doc can get it to work, I think Matisse would be the biggest benefactor of that.
Paul Hudrick from Liberty Ballers. What's the scene tonight at the Wells Fargo Center? We're going to get it's Halloween. Or it was Halloween yesterday. You're going to get like Dame Lillard jerseys all over the place. You're going to have signs. You're going to have chants. I mean, I would imagine the Philly crowd is going to be somewhat creative tonight.
Absolutely, and I'm looking for it, man. I sent out a tweet. If anyone's got any good creative stuff that they're doing tonight at the game, send it my way. I'm interested in it. Because I'm sure, the Philly fans. I mean, we've seen it in the past when a guy is rumored to want to come here, or just rumored in general, or a free agent to be, like we did, with Manny Machado and Bryce Harper in years past. I'm sure the Philly crowd tonight's going to bring it with that, and I'm very curious to see what happens. I'm sure at intros he'll get a nice ovation, maybe some booze mixed in there, and then what happens in the game, like. What happens if he goes for 50 tonight and Portland wins? Like, it's going to be a very conflicting kind of reaction from the crowd, I think. So I think it's going to be a fun atmosphere. I'm a little disappointed Joel won't be a part of it, but I think overall, I think the Philly fans are going to bring it tonight, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, Paul, on a scale of 1 to 10, what are you rating the new City Unis?
I got to go like a 9.
Those things are sweet.
Especially when you consider last year, quite frankly, with all due respect to the people that I like in the organization, I was really disappointed by the black jerseys last year. I was really hoping for an AI homage of some kind, and we really didn't get that. So this year they really hit on the nostalgia this year with, the spectrum look and the color tones on the side. I think they really nailed it.
Yeah, if you're watching the video, there they are. The Sixers city uniforms. The court's going to have the Spectrum logo in the middle, I guess, on Wednesday night. They're going to be wearing these, and then they'll be for sale. I think November 15th is when you can start to buy these things. But they did get these right. They finally nailed one. I don't like the red. I don't love the black. These, they are fire. I'm giving them a 9.5, baby. These are great. All right, Paul Hudrick. I'll see you soon, man.
Sounds good, Mike. Take care, man.
All right, Paul Hudrick, Liberty Ballers. And, of course, we look at the Sixers tonight as they take on the Portland Trailblazers. Those, if you're watching the live video, let me know. You like these unis? If you're watching on the comment, hit me up in the comment section on the video. Let me know, because these Sixers these are fire, baby. These are some big time. They did it. They hit me up pretty good with those bad boys. They're blue. Now, I'm imagining they might have two versions. I don't know, but these are blue. It's like the 1971 kind of font. That 1971 season is what I believe they are. Down the side, they've got the red, orange, green, blue for the Spectrum. And on the pants, they actually have the Spectrum logo with the Spectrum building. So you can take a look at the pants. I got them up on the video right now. So if you're watching the live video, hit me up in the comment section. Let me know. You like these? I love these ones. And the court looks awesome, too. If you go to our website, 973ESPN.com, you can see what the court looks like as well. All right, I am Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. And don't forget, we've got another chance for you to qualify for this year's 99 bottles. And, of course, the 99 bottles party is happening on Wednesday, the 24th, thanks to our friends at Vagabond Kitchen and Tap House in Egg Harbor Township, 3016 Ocean Heights Avenue in EHT. And there's that sounder. 99 bottles is back, and it's bigger than ever. It's our biggest party of the year. 99 bottles, 99 tickets, 99 prizes. The first 3 callers in it right now at 609-573-3776, 609-573-3776. You will reserve your spot and qualify for this year's 99 bottles, which includes the biggest tickets, the best events in the area, including club box seats to see the Eagles host the Washington football team. We'll also have tickets to other great events in the area like the Flyers, the Sixers, concerts, and more. 99 tickets, 99 winners, this year's 99 bottles party. It's brought to you by Vagabond Kitchen and Tap House, 3016 Ocean Heights Avenue in Egg Harbor Township. Good luck. All right, 5 o'clock, driving you home here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. I'm your host, Mike Gill. What's up, everybody? Congratulations to George in Egg Harbor City, Chuck in Port Norris, and Bob in Mays Landing. They are the 3 qualifiers for 99 bottles. We'll see them at Vagabond Kitchen and Tap House on Wednesday, November the 24th. For this year's 99 bottles party, we'll do qualifiers tomorrow at 2:55 and 4:55. Well, the Eagles ran it and ran it and ran it some more. I don't know that anybody could have predicted that, Casey Joyner, as we take a look at one thought on every game, plus why the Eagles were so successful yesterday. However, they did it against the Lions, but some people were skeptical whether or not they would be able to even beat this Lions team. What did we see on Sunday, Casey, that maybe they can carry over and become a more competitive football team?
I wish they would have told us they were going to do this before they did it, because I picked the Lions to win this game, but if you'd have told me the Eagles were going to lean on the ground game, I would have been like, okay, Eagles going to win this game. What they could take into this, what I thought was most interesting is, earlier in the year when they've been running a ball, they've been doing a lot of basic runs, a lot of inside zone plays or zone read keepers, not very much creativity in the ground game. And in this contest, you saw inside zone, you saw a couple of the zone read keepers, but you saw outside zone. You saw a lot of perimeter plays. You saw reverses. You saw a number of different ways that they were able to attack the edges with this creativity and display their coaching prowess to say, hey, we don't have to be boring in the running game to make the running game work. We can be creative with it. So I think if they can carry that mindset forward, it can make their ground game even more powerful.
Right. So you take a look at what they did well in the run game. Was it better play design, more creativity? The backs were different. Jordan Howard and Boston Scott were in. Miles Sanders obviously out. Offensive line. What was the reasoning that added to the success in the run game?
It's the offensive line. It's what they were doing to attack the edges. They realized, the defense will tell you that the last thing you want to allow in the ground game is somebody to get to the edge. You do not want to allow anything perimeter. And they were attacking perimeter in a variety of ways. What I like, though, is they've been so Jalen Hurts-centric in their ground game. And it can hurt your quarterback. It gives you a limited amount of things that you could do in the ground game, because a lot of it ends up being zone read keepers, single read, and you're doing RPOs. And if he doesn't run it, then he's just got a single read pass. It's some simplicity in there that can work, but it also typecasts your running game. And in this contest, if you were trying to scout the Eagles off of this and you said, okay, if what they did against Detroit is what they're going to do going forward, and again, Detroit's a really bad defense, but if you scout it and said what they're going to do going forward, they're going to be a lot harder team to prepare for defensively, because now you've got that kind of creativity in the passing game that says we're going to have to protect our edges and protect our center. And again, mixing inside and outside zone, it's not the easiest thing to do, and the Eagles did it with success yesterday.
Yeah, so what's moving forward? Can they take, hey, we did this well against Detroit, this is who we are? Should they be saying this is our identity? We are a power run team?
They should for at least certain matchups. If you were going against, say, Tampa Bay or a top-notch run defense, I think you may want to say, okay, we got to go a different way, because sometimes you're not going to be able to move them all on the ground. But if you've got matchups coming up that say, hey, we should be able to run the football, I think you need to have that in your repertoire. You have to be able to say, yes, we are going to put the ball on the ground. We're going to make sure that you have to stop this. And I think that that's going to be good for the Eagles, because if you take a look at their schedule for the rest of the season, their schedule has, I rank matchups by green, yellow, red. Green's favorable, yellow's okay, red is unfavorable. They have 3 red-rated matchups coming up in run defense the rest of the year. They have 2 green-rated matchups and 3 yellow-rated matchups, which means at least 5 of the next 8-9 games, they should be able to run the ball with effectiveness. And in 3 of those contests, they'll be able to run the ball very effectively. So I think, they need to make this a central part of their game, because you don't want teams to think that, hey, you're going to be a passing team and you can just do this real simple running game. I like the idea of adding some creativity to that ground game.
Obviously, they put 44 points on. They ran it to death, but they also had a very good game defensively. They only gave up 6 points. It seems to be hit or miss for them. They either get shredded defensively, or they have played very well defensively. They played very well against Atlanta. They played very well against Carolina. They played very well yesterday. They played well against, I wouldn't say very well, but they only gave up 17 points in a loss to San Francisco. Why the Jekyll and Hyde?
I'll tell you about what they did against the Lions. I can speak to that at least. I wrote an article for The Athletic. Every Monday morning, I have an article that comes out, takes a look at one question. It's a fantasy-centric article, but you can read it for NFL content as well. It asks one question for each team. And for the Lions, I said, is there any value in this offense outside of DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson? And what I looked at was Jared Goff's ability to throw the football when you don't get pass rush against him. Quarterbacks will all have trouble with even pass rush, but when he doesn't have pass rush pressure against him this year, Goff has averaged only 6.8 yards per attempt and tallied 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions this year. He's not even getting good numbers when you don't pass pressure him. They don't have any verticality to their game. Yesterday, per True Media, Goff had 6 pass attempts to travel 11 or more yards downfield, 6 vertical passes, completes 2 for 52 yards, 8.7 yards per attempt. It's mediocre. They just didn't have any verticality in this game. When they don't have the verticality in this game, you could do everything you want to say, fine, we're just going to go ahead and get after your passer because you can't pass block very well either. And we know we don't have to respect the verticality. We can just clamp down on the short passing game. And it's not a situation that you're going to be able to do down the road. But when you see a matchup like this and Eagles were able to do this, they were able to be as aggressive as we were talking about they need to be, which was a good sign.
Yeah, I know defensively, they made some tweaks too. The linebackers, it looked like Singleton got less time. They used TJ Edwards. They had Davion Taylor out there. Is this because Detroit's poor, or did the adjustments they made, are they going to be able to implement them and be more competitive defensively?
I think they want Singleton out there for the ground game, but the Lions didn't have any kind of ground game. My fantasy team wasn't appreciative of only 1 point out of Singleton, but, that's a different story. I think that's what it is they were able to it's tough because, I think every time I look at Detroit, I think, okay, Chicago scored 24 points against them. Chicago hasn't scored 20 more points in any other game. Chicago had over 200 yards passing against them. Chicago might be the worst passing offense in the league, and they were able to at least move the ball a little bit. So I think you have to look at it from that perspective. The thing I do like about this, though, is that if this was a case of just if you've got good talent versus bad talent, okay, you'll win the game. When you have a blowout like this, it says that it wasn't just we're a more talented team, that we were able to be aggressive and get after them. I think I got a bit of a sense of that finally Sirianni, we've been talking on here on the show for a couple of weeks, that they've been passive, they've been sitting back, they haven't been getting after the other teams, and that I wonder if he realized if I lose to Detroit, I'm going to lose my job. That's a loss that I may not be able to overcome, and I'll be a one and done coach. And so we're going to go ahead and be aggressive. I also got the sense that Detroit, they finally ran out of gas. That they've been pushing so hard to be that aggressive kneecap biting team, and it finally just caught up to them. And I got that sense that not that they didn't want to try, but they'd finally run out of gas. But again, if you can go in that kind of matchup and you can dominate a team like this, it speaks well to where you are as a team. So kudos to Sirianni.
All right, so we looked about the defense, and they've played well against the teams I mentioned: Atlanta, Carolina yesterday. Those teams all have something in common. Typically, now Matt Ryan's pretty good. I don't want to put it, but the teams they've really struggled against have top-tier quarterbacks. The teams they seem to play well against do not. I look the rest of the way. They got Herbert this week. After that, Bridgewater, who knows who's playing for the Saints, Daniel Jones, who knows who's playing for the Jets, Tyler Heineke, Daniel Jones again, Heineke again. Do you think their defense keeps this up?
I do. It's an incredibly favorable schedule. And the thing is that I measure matchups also by what's the odds that you're going to have to get into a shootout. And I don't think the Eagles offense is designed to get into shootouts. It's not who they are. And I don't have any of these matchups graded up until they get to, Dallas in week 18, and maybe the Chargers are week 9. The Chargers have been hit or miss. Their offense has not been anywhere near as explosive as it should be on a consistent basis. So I look at this going, hey, this is a lot of low-scoring matchups. These are a lot of teams that you should be able to get into that type of low-score matchup with. And I think if we combine the kind of option passing game, the short pass option route passing game they had against Atlanta in week 1, the zone read stuff that they're very good at, and the Sirianni likes to run and that Hurts likes to run. If you add that with the creativity they had in the passing game today, and you just add some verticality to the passing game, and they've got people who can go deep, they just got to fit that in there. that's a good mix. And then if you play the kind of defense that they're playing, and you're playing against teams that, look, the Broncos aren't a big play team. The Saints are, the Giants are, the Jets. I don't care what happened yesterday. You give a team a couple of opportunities to look over their tape and figure out what Mike White can and can't do. That's not who they are offensively. So I think there's going to be a lot of 24 and fewer points scored against them kind of games. That's the kind of game you can win a lot of contests in that matchup.
Well, right now, I tweeted this out, Casey. Carolina's 4-4, Philadelphia's 3-5. I mean, they're there. People don't want to hear it. They get, stopped. They beat Carolina on the road. I mean, they're just as good, if not better, than Carolina. Atlanta is ahead of them. Minnesota, San Francisco. I think this is more an indictment on having 7 playoff teams in each conference.
It is. I hate the 7 playoff teams. I think you dilute. I think they want to get to the point where half the teams make the playoffs because it makes for more even. It's terrible. I mean, again, you're going to get 7-9 and 6-10 teams in there. But hey, you're one game out, and if you look at it and say, okay, let's just assume they lose to the Chargers because the Chargers are a better team. Let's just assume that for a second. Broncos, Saints, Giants, Jets, twice against Washington and twice against the Giants. So that's 6 games. Can you go 4-2 in those matchups? Yeah, you can. I mean, not saying they will, but can you? Sure. Can they upset the Chargers? They could. The Chargers they have that history of playing down to the talent level sometimes, and it's a road contest for them too. So I look at all that and go, hey, could I go 4-2, 4-3 over the next few games? Yeah, and with lucky bounce, can they go 5-2? Sure. If they go to that point, then yeah, absolutely, they're a playoff contender. I don't think it's out of the realm to talk about them that way, especially with the kind of momentum they're going to get off this contest.
All right, one thought every game. Casey Joyner from The Athletic and the Philadelphia Inquirers here. One thought every game. Let's look at Monday night tonight. Giants, Chiefs. Obviously, the Chiefs have been struggling, but it feels like the Giants would be just what the doctor ordered.
It should be. The Giants are missing Galladay. They're missing Barkley. They're probably going to try and feature Ingram, so maybe they can trade him and things. They've got some big playability. The Chiefs have got to be able to run the football. They can't get in the shootout contest, and I think this is the type of contest where they're going to be able to put the ball on the ground and keep the ball moving that way. And again, if they just don't get the turnovers, because that's what's really been killing them. So I still got the Chiefs winning. I don't think they cover, though. I think they win by probably touchdown.
All right, one thought every game. Let's take a look at what we got going on here. Panthers and Falcons. These are 2 teams that Philly beat, so we were kind of watching this game to see what was going on here. Panthers go on the road. They had, played well. People liked them. Then they started to struggle. They got a nice road win.
They did in Atlanta. It's surprising because they got the Panthers had that 3-3-5 front we were talking about a few weeks ago on there coming to that contest, and their pass rush hadn't been working, but they got a pass rush in 29% of plays yesterday, and they did it despite on the blitzing 25.8% of the time. Those are they were able to get after the quarterback, and that's a positive thing for them. So kudos to Carolina for finding a way to get that defense to be play again.
All right, Buffalo, obviously not as dominant as maybe we thought. The Dolphins go on the road. They kind of fought in that game. In fact, that game was close in the fourth quarter. Then the Bills kind of pull away.
They did, and I think the Bills, because they've been dominating the Dolphins so much, you don't ever overlook a division rival like that, but they probably took them for granted some, and the Dolphins were fighting and things. The Dolphins, though, they're not the least talented team in the league, but they're pretty darn close, and this season's starting to fall apart for them. I think they could it might be the beginning of a very, very long run for them. I could see a double-digit losing streak.
And they look good. I mean, this looked like a team that was on the come, right? Last year, they looked like they had positive vibes.
They did, but now you're telling your quarterback, we don't believe in you. We're going to try and get a replacement for you. They got a terrible offensive line. Their defense has taken a step back. Their skill position players, they just don't have very many. I just, they don't have enough weaponry on either side of the ball to play to that level. So I think it was a lot of coaching and circumstance last year, and now that's both those things are not working for them.
All right, 49ers, Bears, these are 2 teams, injury issues, quarterback issues, 33-22, another road team with a win.
Yeah, and San Francisco shows that if you have a good power running game, you can have quarterback questions and win. The Bears don't have that, and they've got huge quarterback question marks. And Garoppolo, look, he's not a great quarterback, but he is a solid quarterback. He's a good quarterback. And Mitchell gets 137 yards, and Deebo Samuel, top 5 receiver in the league. So they just have those kind of big plays. In Chicago, they have no big plays in their offense at all. So it's not surprising to see the 49ers win.
Talk about no big plays. One thought every game. Cleveland, Steelers, both these offense struggled big time yesterday. The Browns, they've got all sorts of injuries, but man, this season has kind of gotten off the rails for them.
It has, and the Steelers were able to make enough plays. I mean, they go for that fake field goal. and get your kicker knocked out with a concussion, so they have to go for the touchdown. And Freiermuth makes the good fourth down catch. By the way, Pat Freiermuth, very good tight end. They're comparing him to Heath Miller, and he's looking better and better every week. He's going to be a guy to remember. But Cleveland, it's a big thing is they got the injuries, and I think Baker Mayfield is probably more banged up than he's letting on, and that it's crippling their team.
One thought every game. This one has gotten a lot of attention. Carson Wentz interception, a horrible interception, horrible decision. The Titans, they go on the road. Another road team gets a win, but this was a big one because the Titans win the game, but they lose Derrick Henry. So this one's got a lot going on here.
The Titans, hey, they honestly, I don't want to say they should have seen this coming in that sense, but when I wrote my article for The Athletic this morning, the very first thing that I put in there was that Derrick Henry had been on pace to have 503 touches this year. Easily the league record. He's putting up 30 every week for like multiple weeks. You can't run a player that much and not have something happen to him. So that he got hurt, I feel terrible because he's a fantastic back, and I love breaking down his tapes, but Tennessee, that's a problem they're going to have, and now they're going to have to go Ryan Tannehill centric, and I'm not sure it's going to work. But the Colts, I mean, this is what you get with Wentz. You're going to get games like this. The Eagles fans can tell you all about it.
One thought every game. You're right about that. Bengals and Jets. I mean, what a wild game right when we want to start believing in the Bengals. They lose to the Jets and a quarterback no one's ever heard of before. The Jets, they have a quarterback conundrum.
They probably do, just because White did this well. But you give White one bad game, like he had in his first time out when he had to fill in injury-wise, and they'll lose that conundrum pretty quickly because you don't have a first-round draft pick and bench him like that. But having said that, they let White be aggressive. They let White throw it downfield, and he pulled. I'll go back. I pulled a Brett Favre. He got a chance to get out there and be aggressive, and he did. And he said, "I'm going to go for the big plays." And that's the thing. The Jets still have gas in their tank. They are like what the Lions were. They're still fighting. They like their coach. They want to play hard for him, and it showed up yesterday.
All right, one thought every game. Rams and Texans. I mean, obviously the Texans, another road game, by the way, another road win here. Rams make a big trade today. They get Von Miller, but not before they put up 38 points with the offense. We know the Texans have been a mess.
Texans have been a mess. Here's the thing about Texans, though. I mean, because the Rams are in cruise control, and I love the trade too. By the way, I think it's the kind of thing that says they're all in on trying to win a Super Bowl. But when Tyrod Taylor was the quarterback in weeks 1 and 2, and he missed the second half of week 2 game, in that span, and I wrote this in my article for The Athletic today, the Houston offense ranked 9th in offensive points per drive, 2.52 in that span. Ever since then, they tallied 0.91 points per drive at a pace that's dead last in the league. When they get Taylor back, this team is going to be markedly improved. I'm not saying it'll be a good team, but right now they're in the dregs. They get him back, and they suddenly go to about middle of the league.
All right, one thought every game. Let's go to Patriots-Chargers. Here, this Charger team, they're coming to Philly this week. You know, they're at home. Another road team wins this game. Patriots all of a sudden got a little mojo going. Herbert had one of the worst games I've ever seen him play.
Yeah, and that shows you that Belichick still knows how to coach defense. He hasn't forgotten how to do that, and that's a big thing for them because they've got enough talent that if you give them a team that doesn't have a big talent edge, they can make up for it in play calling. That's to take nothing away from the Chargers, but Belichick is obviously who he is. But the Chargers, I will take this away from them, though, is that they've had a few matchups. They went up against the Cowboys, and they should have been able to win that game, and they didn't. They go up against the Patriots, a game they probably could have won and didn't. They're getting a lot of this, which is why that matchup next week, I think, there's going to be an opportunity for the Eagles because the Chargers don't always play to their talent level.
One thought every game, Seahawks dominate. I mean, the Jaguars, they've been a disaster as well. Trevor Lawrence, they asked him to throw 54 times. But, hey, Seattle, who really didn't have much of an identity on Monday night, they looked a lot different on Sunday.
They did, and Tyler Lockett caught 142 yards. Almost all of his receptions were on dink and dunk passes. They've been using him in all this vertical stuff and saying, okay, we're going to go vertical. We're going to go vertical. You and Metcalf both going to go vertical. And they kept doing it even after Russell Wilson got hurt. And it wasn't working. And yesterday they had him they threw a ton of short passes to him, which gave them a way to move the ball outside of trying to run the ball because Collins only had 44 yards. He was the leading rusher in the game, 44 yards for Seattle. So they're finally adjusting to what they are offensively now. And now they get a bye next week and Russell Wilson comes back and then they get back to what they were. So kudos to them for adjusting to their situation.
All right, one thought every game. All right, Washington loses again. Their defense played a lot better, but Denver doesn't have a great offense. Denver's defense does a good job here. 17-10 in this one. Denver will be in Philly in a couple of weeks, but they get the win over a Washington football team who, again, seems to be looking for a quarterback.
They seem to look. I mean, Heineke tried really hard earlier in the year, and I think he ran out of gas. He kind of, I'm getting Ryan Fitzpatrick vibes where he's good for just a few games, and you can get that out of him. But then if you have to rely on him for a longer period of time, his weaknesses start showing up. I give Denver credit; they play percentage football, and they've got a quarterback and a defense to allow them to play percentage football. But they were lucky to win this game because Washington is just playing that badly right now. I don't think Denver could have easily lost this game, and talent-wise, they shouldn't have been in that situation.
All right, one thought every game. Saints 36, Bucks 27. They do it without their quarterback. We thought the Saints have a good defense, but the 36 points they put up, that has to be the story.
That does, and they were able, and Kamara only gets 61 yards on the ground. They were able to do it a lot through the air. And Peter King had a great article today talking about all the different coaching adjustments that they made and be able to use third string and backup players. That's the thing. You can get a Sean Payton in that kind of a situation. He can do those kinds of things, and just taking nothing away from Bruce Arians because he's a heck of a coach, but he got out coached in that matchup. That's one where this is why you have a Sean Payton as your head guy, because he can get you a win in this kind of situation where almost every other coach in the league would lose this one.
All right, last one as we take a look at the Sunday night game. One thought every game. Cowboys win. Vikings, I mean, oh my gosh, you're at home. What a disaster. You have Cooper Rush who's doing nothing, and you can't figure out a way to win that game. I don't know what's going on with that Viking offense.
Viking offense, they're only 78 yards from Cook, and their passing attack isn't very good. They've got some problems. Mind you, the Dallas defense is better than people give them credit for. They're not a great defense, but right now, Cousins right now, he has 27. What is it? Since week 4, he ranks 10th in vertical yards per attempt. I'm reading off of my article off The Athletic. 10th in vertical yards per attempt since week 4. He's next to last in short pass YPA. So the thing is usually it's the other way around. Normally in short pass production, you can easily get going, and you've got players to do that. But right now they've got players in Thielen and Jefferson, and all their production seems to be on down the field passes. Now they would get dink and dunk stuff going. And that says, I think that teams are saying, hey, we don't think you can throw dink and dunk passes. We don't think you're consistent enough, and we're going to challenge you to do that. And Kirk Cousins is a gunslinger, doesn't want to do it. So I think it's going to be a problem for them going forward, because you should be able to manufacture short passing in the NFL today fairly easily.
All right, there you go. One thought every game tonight. We got the Monday Night Football game. You'll hear that after the Sixers and the Blazers, Giants and Chiefs. And, of course, Casey's back on Friday with one thought on every game. Week 8, we're going to be hitting week 9, I should say, is where we're heading to. Starting to cruise. We're starting to move too fast. But we'll have that on Friday. One thought every game, including the Eagles and the Chargers. Casey Joyner, check him out at The Athletic and the Philadelphia Inquirer, and on Twitter at KCJoynerTFS. Casey, I'll see you Friday, man.
Thank you, man.
All right, there you go. Casey Joyner here, breaking it down. One thought every game for you here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. And don't forget, you can download the free mobile app in the Apple Store, Google Play. His appearance is brought to you by Cape Regional Health System. For a healthier life, call 609-463-CAPE. One thought every game. Wow, wait, a lot of road games. Road team wins. Philly was another road win. Busy day so far. When we come back, Jeff Kerr will be here to talk more about that Eagles game, the NFC East, Giants and Chiefs tonight. More NFL on the way. Busy on a Monday. Victory Monday. I asked you on Twitter, at Mike Gill Show. The Eagles are one game out of a playoff spot. Are you excited or are you angry when I say that? When I say the Eagles are one game out of the playoff spot, are you angry at me or excited to hear that? I'll read those off coming up later on in the show here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. All right, 5:30 on the nose. Jeff Kerr. He's brought to you by the expert solar team of New Jersey, EMT Solar, Roofing, Solar Guardian. Start your solar journey today. Learn more. Visit ESPNSolar.com. All right, Jeff Kerr. I don't know that any of us could have scripted this one out, but we'll take it for a week. I guess the big question is, can they continue it? Can they keep this up? Is this something, is this a blueprint of consistency that they can follow moving forward? Philadelphia beats Detroit handily, even though you have a Lions colored shirt on there.
This is my high school color shirt, Mike. I knew someone was going to say it today on all my radio appearances, so you were the first one to point it out, so congratulations to you.
There we go.
But, yeah, I think they can continue it, and where I want to see them continue it is this week against the Chargers, because they're playing a really good football team. Offensively, I think Nick Sirianni is going to continue running the football. Jalen Hurts was 5 for 6 for 68 yards, 113 passer rating in play action yesterday, and I think a lot of that had to do with using the run to set up the pass, and Jalen Hurts found a lot of open receivers. I think Nick Sirianni will hold his end of the bargain. Will Jonathan Gannon? Will he go back to the blitz? Will he blitz, will he send an extra rusher or two and free up Josh Sweat, free up Derek Barnett? Because the Chargers don't have a very good offensive line. Rashad Slayer's been incredible. Obviously, Corey Linsley was an all-pro last year. But that right side of the line, Storm Norton, the right tackle, you can get after the quarterback. And that's what has kind of thrown Justin Herbert off these last couple weeks. It's the right side of the offensive line is really hurting him. I think John McGann needs to blitz again. I have faith Nick Sirianni will stick to his word. I'm not sure about Gannon.
All right, so what did Gannon do, though, that maybe you're concerned that he won't do again? What was successful? Why did the defense have success?
Well, for one, they weren't playing safeties too far deep. And I don't know if that was because they didn't have Anthony Harris on Sunday or because Eric Wilson wasn't in the game, but they decided to play Marcus Epps and Rodney McLeod up. And I think a lot of that had to do with who the quarterback was. Jared Goff is not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Tom Brady. He's not Derek Carr. He's Jared Goff. And I think Jonathan Gannon said, you know what, Jared Goff, with you and your wide receivers, you're going to have to beat us over the top. We don't think you can do that. Justin Herbert can, because he has Keenan Allen, because he has Mike Williams, because he has Jared Cook, because he has all these weapons. He has Jalen Guyton. He has all these weapons he can throw to. That's why I'm a little concerned he'll go back to what he did against the Chiefs and what he did against the Buccaneers and kind of have them think and dunk all the way into the end zone. I hope that's not the case, but based on what I saw the first 7 games and based on what they do against elite quarterbacks, I think he does go back to it.
Right. This would be, I would imagine Herbert's the best quarterback they got left on their schedule. I mean, him and Prescott.
Yeah, and honestly, I pointed this out this morning, Mike. After Herbert, this is what you got. You got Teddy Bridgewater on the Broncos team that's selling. I don't know who the Saints quarterback's going to be. I'm assuming it's going to be Trevor Siemian. You got Daniel Jones twice. You got Taylor Heineke twice. Again, it's...
Oh, yeah. No, I point this out that the rest of the way, their defense has excelled against mediocre to, whatever quarterback. That's all they have left other than Herbert and Prescott. And by the time you get to Prescott, that game probably won't matter. Who knows? But so was there a recipe here for this defense? Like I was just talking about this in the last segment, Jeff. The Jekyll and Hyde, they go from being one of the worst looking defenses you ever saw to being like, whoa. I mean, but they look like this against Atlanta. They look like this against Carolina. They look like this somewhat against San Francisco. And then yesterday. So why the complete up and down nature?
I really do think it's what you pointed out, Mike, the quarterbacks. I think it's the class of quarterback. And Matt Ryan was the best quarterback they beat. I'm still shocked over how Matt Ryan wasn't able to do what he did. But, maybe if you play the Falcons now, that changes because obviously Matt Ryan's been pretty much on point since week 1 outside of yesterday. And Kyle Pitts has been really good. But, you're right. It's Matt Ryan, it's Jimmy Garoppolo, it's Jared Goff. It's not of the top 10 or top 12 quarterbacks. These guys are either toward the middle or toward the bottom. And I think that's what's helping this football team. I think they know, and poor offensive lines have to do a lot with this too, Mike. I think when they face an offensive line that they know they can generate pressure and they know they can get up front, I think that's when you see Jonathan Gannon more in attack mode. When you see the better offensive lines in the league, I think that's where he plays conservative. But you're right. Like against the Raiders, that was one of the worst defensive performances I ever saw. Tampa Bay, I actually thought their defense played pretty decently against Tampa Bay, with my low expectations. But I did not expect DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson to be pretty much shut down. TJ Hawkinson had 10 catches, but didn't really do much with them.
Oh, you're right. I mean, Hawkinson, they did a good job of but that's what the defense is supposed to be. Make the catch, bring it down. Bend, but don't break. The problem is they bend it and broke. This game, they didn't bend much, but they certainly didn't break. I mean, defensively, you saw, but here's a question then. You saw a little bit of different personnel. Milton Williams, TJ Edwards, Davion Taylor. Wilson was inactive. Less of Singleton. They did make some changes personnel-wise.
Oh, they did, and I think that had a lot to do with it too. As you mentioned, Eric Wilson was the biggest one. Inactive to me. TJ Edwards played more. Like TJ Edwards wasn't great in coverage, but again, you're giving up so much in the middle of the field. Didn't matter. He made the tackle right away. Unlike Eric Wilson, unlike Alex Singleton, who were just getting bulldozed. And I got to give Jonathan Gann credit here. He gave up on these guys pretty much after 7-8 games. Okay, this isn't working. So we're going to go TJ Edwards. We're going to go Damian Taylor at linebacker. Anthony Harris, I don't know, Mike. I'm a little concerned now. I don't know if Anthony Harris is going to get his job back because Marcus Epps played well yesterday. And, Anthony Harris was inactive with an injury, but still it's almost like Mike White with the Jets right now. You're taking advantage of your opportunity, and that's what Marcus Epps did. And same thing with Milton Williams. Milton Williams is getting playing time with Ryan Kerrigan, had a sack yesterday, had a pretty good game. And all of a sudden now you see potential in this defense. I know we can't make too much of it because it's Detroit, but you're seeing the seeds blossom.
Offensively, obviously they ran the ball a ton. You're not asking them to run the ball that much. But on Friday's show, I asked for Boston Scott. I said, feature Boston Scott whenever you called on him. He has answered the call. Jordan Howard, they had games when they used Jordan Howard, they were getting big yards. So where does Miles Sanders fit when he returns?
Well, I think they have to give the ball to Miles Sanders when he comes back. I think he kind of replaces Boston Scott there, but I still think you have a role for Boston Scott. And look, I got to point this out right now. The Eagles better sign Jordan Howard or a 53-man roster because even though the Titans signed Adrian Peterson, you could bet they're kind of looking at Jordan Howard right now with like, oh, he reverted back to the practice squad. We can claim him. He had a good game yesterday. He looks fresh. The Eagles better make sure Jordan Howard's on that active roster. But I agree. I think Miles Sanders has to be the feature back here. I think Boston Scott is the one who ultimately hurts, but you can still go to him and Jordan Howard to spell Miles Sanders when you can. I mean, the Eagles have potential here to have a three-headed monster, and including Kenny Gainwell in the passing game. I know running through the tackles isn't his strong suit, but Kenny Gainwell also provides some of this offense too. But I wouldn't worry about too much about Miles Sanders. If Nick Sirianni continues to run the ball, not at that clip, but if he continues to run the ball and show commitment to the run, I think Miles Sanders will get his opportunities.
Well, I hope so, because we saw a glimpse. And then, obviously, more of a better game plan to get Goddard more involved. He led the team in targets yesterday. He led the team in catches and receiving yards. This is 2 weeks in a row now. He's gone over 70 yards. He has 9 catches for 142 in the last 2 weeks. It seems that Sirianni had like an aha moment here.
Yeah, it seemed like, too, like once Zach Ertz was gone, you didn't have to worry about the 12 personnel anymore. You could still run your 11 personnel and be like, oh, I got this guy who has a pretty good repertoire with Jalen Hurts right now. And you're seeing that. I mean, Dallas Goedert is getting wide open for this guy. And in a way, it's kind of hurting Devonta Smith a bit because he's losing targets. But you got to love what you're seeing out of Dallas Goedert right now. What he's providing blocking-wise, how he gets open in the play action. They're running a lot more play action toward him. He's getting wide open. He's getting a lot of yards after the catch. I mean, it's only been 2 games, but you are seeing that number one tight end.
Yeah, I like the fact that they've got him more involved here. I don't know. Offensively, are you going to run the ball this much? No. Is it nitpicking to say I'm a little discouraged by how little the wide receivers played a factor in the game? Or is that just, hey, we just ran the ball, don't bark about that?
Yeah, it's the same thing like, the criticizers of Jalen Hurts yesterday. Oh, they're running the ball to this guy's Jalen Hurts. No, they're not. They're not doing that. They're running the ball because they're getting 6 yards to carry. That's why they're running the football, and Detroit can't stop them. It's almost like what teams were doing to the Eagles, just dick-and-tucking their way down the field because you couldn't stop it. So, it almost felt like the Eagles were giving another team a taste of their own medicine and what they weren't able to do. So I wasn't worried about that at all. I'm a little concerned Devonta Smith had a drop yesterday, but he only had 2 targets overall. I just don't think it was part of the game plan yesterday.
What'd you think of Sirianni's answer today as why he's had the drops? That was an elongated. That was like a 1,500-word essay.
You know, Nick Sirianni just rambles on and on and on, Mike. And honestly, I didn't even get to hear the press conference today. What was the gist of what he said? I have yet to read the transcript or listen to the press conference.
Holy mackerel!
I heard he said a lot about it. But
yeah, I could forward you the transcript. I mean, it
oh
was.
no, I have it. I just
okay.
didn't.
Well, I mean, I could copy and paste it into a Word document and tell you how many words it was if you'd like. I mean, it was ridiculous. But you know, it had to do with just. I couldn't even tell you, like you said, it was just like this rambling, going around in circles. I think just trying to cover for the guys dropping passes, and he doesn't really know why. It's almost like I'm frustrated that he's dropping passes too.
Well, yeah, and you know what? And I agree with Nick Sirianni because that is his strong suit. He's a tutor, a wide receiver.
I don't think he dropped a pass in 4 years at Bama.
Yeah, and he's dropping at least one a week now. I don't know. If people want to blame Jalen Hurts for that, that's fine. But that one pass is right in his hands, you know. So I don't know. Maybe Devonta Smith's just going through some rookie growing pains right now. I don't know. Like, I mean, next week, Devonta Smith could easily go for 7 for 120 next week.
I'm not saying I think the guy stinks and he's a wasted pick. It just, here's a guy that you brought in who said, hey, sure hands. It's one thing you don't have to worry about this guy. And one problem this receiving core has been drops over the years. I mean, they just haven't been able to catch the damn football for the last 2 or 3 seasons, it seems like. So they get out a guy who's billed to be a sure-handed guy, and now he's dropping passes, which is crazy. Let me ask you, Jeff Kerr, we've kind of been asking people this. I tweeted out, and now you said Mike Gill is back in. I'm not in or out.
I'm with you, Mike. I mean, the stats are right there. They're right.
I'm not in or out, but I said to the people, why do people get so angry when I didn't say I think the Eagles are going to make the playoffs. I just said if Vikings lose, which they did, you will now be 1 game out behind a team you've already beaten. I said, are you excited or angry with me? And people, they're PO'd that this team has a shot to make the playoffs, or they don't believe that they actually do have a shot, which sadly, this is more an indictment that the NFL has let a 7th team in.
Yeah, and that was my problem when you let the 7th team in. You allow this to happen. The Carolina Panthers shouldn't be anywhere near a playoff spot right now, but here they are. They're 4-4, and the Eagles are 3-5, and they're 1 game behind them. Look, right now, if the Giants lose tonight, the Eagles are going to be 2nd place in this division. That's how bad this division is. And look, I'll say it, Mike. The NFC North stinks. The Bears stink. The Vikings stink. We know the Lions stink. So you go under that. Seattle has Russell Wilson hurt, though. It does look like he'll be coming back week 10. He said the pin's out. So again, and San Francisco's been a disappointment this year, but they're treading water. They're hanging in there. But after the Saints beat Tampa yesterday, I think that open bow we were talking about last night for 2 playoff spots went down to 1. And hey, the Eagles are 1 game out of it. It's like you said, Mike. They're 1 game out of it. Oh, and by the way, they do play an easy schedule. If they find a way to, I'm not saying beat Los Angeles, but if they do, you're going to start thinking to yourself, oh, hold on a second. They could be in this.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, look, the schedule. Now, people said, oh, they're not even going to beat Detroit. And they did that, and they did it handily.
I said it. I picked them to lose.
Most people did. I'm not picking on anybody in particular. I think most people thought Detroit plays hard. Philly just looks unprepared. Now, the rest of the way, they're playing teams that are Carolina, Atlanta. They're playing teams that are on that caliber or worse. Worse. The Giants are worse. Washington's worse. The Jets are worse. Denver, they're right on they're in the Carolina.
Denver's just traded Von Miller today, so they're obviously not going to be as great. Oh, by the way, the Saints are. I mean, look, I think the Saints are a really good team, but them losing Jameis Winston is a crusher for them. I'm sorry. I like Trevor Siemian. I like what Sean Payton has done, but it's hard to ask them to do that week in and week out.
You're right. This is going to be an ugly, ugly race to number 7. That's how I put it.
Whoever is the number 2 seed in the NFC playoffs, it's going to feel like a bye week. It really is. Like, I know the Cardinals and the Packers are probably going to be good. You know what? Honestly, Mike, it might be Dallas just because of their easy schedule, too. They don't play anybody.
All right. Well, Jeff Kerr's back on Wednesday. We'll start to look ahead to the Chargers. Who wins tonight? Giants got a shot? No?
Ah, come on, Mike. How well do you know me by that?
Hey,
Did I ever pick the Giants to win
all
football
the
games?
all the road teams seem to be winning this week. That's all.
This week, this year, like I think over the last 2 years, road teams are like I think it's like a 513 win percentage, and like
The
from
Eagles are
1978 to 2020, it was like 44%.
The Eagles have 3 wins. They're on the road.
It's crazy, isn't it? They got to win at home at some point, right? Like that might be why I pick them this week. I might go the conspiracy route.
Unbelievable. They got to win a home game somewhere on this list. All right. Jeff Kerr's back Wednesday. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks for having me on, Mike.
Jeff Kerr's appearance is brought to you by the expert solar team of New Jersey, EMT Solar and Roofing and Solar Guardian. Start your solar journey today by learning more. Visit espnsolar.com. All right, Jeff's always fun. We'll get ready to wrap up the show. Sixers and Blazers tonight, followed by Monday Night Football. And Josh has game night. Chris Franklin will join him at 6:20. Flyers and Coyotes tomorrow. Kevin Durso on tomorrow's show with Josh. Tomorrow we'll be talking to Michael Kasky-Blomain. Sixers, Blazers, we'll recap that. Who's in, who's out. While this is the easiest who's in, who's out, it's also the most difficult. I've never seen it like this before. It's the easiest and the hardest. That's why we enjoy it. Hopefully you enjoy the show today. We'll wrap it up coming up next here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. And the free mobile app, download the app in the Apple Store, Google Play. All right, we'll get ready to wrap the show up. Sports Bash Live. Now, you just said to me right before we jumped on here that Caesar's commercial.
Yeah. Dude, it's so random that JB Smooth is Caesar in
Right.
these
Well,
commercials.
whenever I see him, all I think of is him in his role in Curb Your Enthusiasm, which I'm sure you probably haven't seen.
I mean, I've seen a few episodes, but I'm
I
not.
mean, he's hilarious in
I'm
that.
not the avid viewer.
So
that
every
you are.
time I see him playing the role of Caesar, I'm just cracking up laughing with him as I haven't seen I hadn't seen the first two episodes are now out. I mean, you're not that you would know, but
I mean, I know it was supposed to start coming out this month. Or was it last month? I forget.
no, it started 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And which platform
Yeah,
is that on now again?
it's on HBO Max, but
Okay.
so that's what his best known role is. Well, anyway, according to Wikipedia, it says he is best known for his reoccurring role on HBO's Curb Your Enthusiasm, but that's not how you know him.
No, I've seen him do stand-up comedy. That's how he got in.
See, I've only seen him in Curb Your Enthusiasm.
He's a really funny dude. So every time I see him do Caesar, I just start laughing because I can only imagine like how those outtakes are. Like that's got to be some of the funniest outtakes ever. Like anybody who's ever seen him in the Spider-Man movie, he literally owned the outtake reel. It was like 2 minutes of him just like messing around.
Right, but so him as Leon in Curb Your Enthusiasm, that's the only. So that's what the funny part is. I see him in those commercials and crack up, and you're seeing him in those commercials and crack up, but we're laughing for different reasons because he's Leon in Curb Your Enthusiasm. Like if you saw Curb Your Enthusiasm, the role that he plays in that, it's hysterical. I haven't seen this season yet, so there's only like 2 episodes, but I don't have HBO Max because I have Amazon Prime, and HBO shows used to be on Prime, but now it's on Max. There's too many these streaming services, too many, man.
So I have HBO Max as part of my Xfinity bundle. It was a free add-on with my boosted internet that I pay for.
Is there a way I can access that? I have Prime, I have Netflix, which comes with my Xfinity.
Yeah,
you have
Netflix
Netflix
comes
for
with me
free
too,
because
yeah.
of that. I just too many things, man. I mean,
it's
and now,
way too many.
Well, next year the NFL is going exclusively to Amazon Prime, right?
So the way it works is you have to watch on Amazon unless you're watching it on your phone. Then it's either the NFL app or it's the Yahoo Sports app.
Well, it's funny. I listen to a lot of sports media podcasts. Like that kind of stuff interests me. Yeah. And there's this big conversation about where the Sunday ticket's going to go.
Right.
Because the Sunday ticket's up on DirecTV and they don't know where it's going to go. And they're wondering if one of these streaming services is going to get it.
I assume they're going to. I mean, I was reading an article in The Athletic about that one of the theories is that, the reason why ESPN Plus is pushing for the ticket is because they don't want Amazon to get it.
Well, yeah. And then there's Amazon has the Thursday night game.
Right.
Exclusively starting next year. Right.
Correct.
They already do. Like they have the Andrea Kramer
simulcast.
They have but they're going to do it too, where they're going to have like multiple options.
Correct.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. All right, Chris Franklin tonight at 6:20. Sixers and Portland going to be a big one. So, we'll listen to hear what kind of chants come out tonight. I'm back tomorrow. Eagles win, victory Monday. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. You don't know how many more of these you're going to get this year. I think more. More Sports Bash tomorrow. See ya.